Utopia, Chapter 7. A lone girl went up the stairs. Her gait was slow, so slow. Step by step, firmly planting her feet on each step, she was slow. Step by step, as if imparting farewells to each step as she went, slowly, slowly. The girl climbed the stairs. To this girl, each step of the stairway could be climbed, but there was no going back down. She could hear the energetic voices of the students sweating during their club activities in the schoolyard. However, the inside of the school after classes had ended was so silent even a deep sigh would reverberate and echo. Even though she could hear those distant, energetic voices from the courtyard where she resided inside the school seemed like a different world shrouded in silence. That was how far she was separated from them. It told her they were in a world she would never cross back into again. She finally came to a halt at the top of the floor of the rising staircase. And there, the door to the rooftop. The dead-end place known as the rooftop was her last stop, but she believed it was the point of a new departure. The girl's arms were painfully wrapped in bandages. Although difficult to make out beneath the shadow of her skirt, even her legs had traces of terrible lingering scars. They weren't caused by bullying or accident. She wanted all of them and she inflicted them upon herself. Because when she'd inflict these large wounds, she knew she could temporarily escape the complicated, frustrating world. Home, school, both were complicated. Or the world itself was complicated. Everyone was foolish, stupid, and it's pointless to live in ignorance like idiots. Why had someone intelligent like her been born into a world like this? In the end, she couldn't understand that. And so the girl held no sadness at all in her expression, but what she did have was contempt and pity for all the humans in this world, but most of all, anger. For her unique soul, being born into the wrong world, a world like this, she overflowed with anger towards the heavens. For her, everything she couldn't understand about this incomprehensible world was frustrating. Even worse, her parents, teachers, and classmates, unable to understand her intelligence, treated her the same as everyone else. Before long, she could no longer stand breathing the same air as they did. And so she learned to hurt herself. Being sent to the infirmary and hospital for severe wounds offered her a moment of protection. And those hospitals and infirmaries were able to somewhat recognize the value of her existence. So they'd give her the appropriate treatment. As she was repeatedly doing this, she started seeking a way to really hurt herself, and finally, she'd reached it today. When her treatment at hospitals and infirmaries ends, once again she is thrust back into that irritating world, so she sought a wound that would never, ever have her sent back out again. She understood it probably wouldn't stop at just a wound, but that was convenient, because it meant things would end and she'd never again return to this frustrating world for all eternity. Injured or worse, either is fine, and in her own way a calm expression rose to her face. Heading out into the rooftop, the sharp, open air violently scattered her hair with a gush of wind. She could see the other students out there doing their club activities, sweating out in the courtyard. Alright. Interesting an alright proposal. We scroll back. How far? Everyone's foolish, stupid, and it's pointless to live in ignorance like idiots. Contempt for everyone. Okay. Thinking the world's pretty miserable. Well, I guess you're not wrong. The world is complicated. Full of suffering and dumb people. Or at least people... There's a lot of people who are at least below average intelligence, because that's why it's an average. All understandable reasons to be frustrated at life. Okay. You kind of do have to find your own justification to continue living, so... As there's lots of terrible things in the world that it's real... That in reality it should be a miracle that anyone can live their life in ignorance of, or willful ignorance of, or at least mentally discard and move on with their lives. Should be impressive, but everyone does it, so it's not that impressive. You could see other students out doing their club activities, sweating it out in the courtyard. Idiots. Nothing but garbage, every one of them. Those simpletons with their minds in the gutter flocked and laughed, spread their vulgarity and sneered at me. You should all die, and when you die, maybe you'll realize how great I am, and realize how different my existence is to all of you. You can tell this was written in Japan and not America, as lines like that normally mean another school shooting, and here it just probably means their person's gonna jump off a building. But then, my brilliant mind tells me, what's wrong isn't the world nor these people. What's wrong is that I was born here. It's a world where vulgar beings live, and by mistake from the heavens, I was allowed to be born into this world where I don't belong. In other words, the fact I am here, that's what's wrong. The girl spits out some saliva. She climbs and then sits on top of the fence, and from here, if I take off just like swinging from a swing, I'll release myself from this repulsive world. Well then, come on, a voice whispers. That voice that offered to save me from this world filled with pain whispers again. Are you scared? The voice laughs, daring me on. I'm not afraid or anything like that. I abandoned those kinds of feelings long ago. Even if I see tomorrow, it's because I have to live in this ugly, ridiculous world that nothing else can scare me. Compared with going back again to that classroom filled with idiots I despise, something like this is... Stop! Think it over. Doing yourself with something. I heard that voice come suddenly from behind me. Who? I should be the only one on the roof. That voice isn't like the voices I could hear with my ears that led me to where I am today. It was a voice I could only hear in my mind. Despite that, I knew the owner of the voice was there. I turned around, and I saw a timid-looking girl gazing up at me as I sat on the fence. Please come down from there. It's dangerous up there. Ordering me to get down from there, she reiterates her irresponsible words. I've had enough orders. Just how many insipid, meaningless orders from people like you do you think I've had to listen to? I've had enough. I won't listen to what anyone has to say anymore. Okay, well, jump then. Please don't jump. After all, if you're prepared to die, there's plenty of things you can do. Huh? I spat dumbfounded at this girl with glasses and her plea. If I'm prepared to die, there's things I can do? The hell do you mean things I can do? Well, there isn't. There's nothing. There's nothing left in this world that I want, but I need something. A world that understands my intelligence and nobility. And it's not here. The only thing I should do has been made clear. It's that I should leave this world I don't belong in as quickly as possible. Leave? You mean die? I'm not dying, I'm just moving from this world of fools to a place more appropriate for me. The voice told me how to cross into that world. The voice. It's what invited me here, and it's the only thing that understands me. The voice just wants you to die. You're being deceived. Don't avert your eyes from the truth. Fight it. Don't misunderstand death as your only way of finding peace. And who are you? You? Someone who has been freed by death? I knew. The girl recklessly standing up and involving herself by telling me not to die was actually not of this world. Funny. I heard of gods of death, but this is the first time I've seen of one saying live. It's true, I might already be dead. But I mean, it's not like I've been set free or anything like that. Then you are in this world, even after death? Just means that this world is suitable for you. For a fool with an inferior mind like you, it's quite suitable, wouldn't you say? I'm different. I'm intelligent and noble. That's right, I'm a genius. I'm so different, I just can't be understood in this foolish world. Yes, this is a world of black and white television. Since the television is black and white, no matter what's projected, it all comes out monochrome. For a full-color being such as myself, I can only see black and white in this world. There is a high-class world for me. Death will take me to that world, and it is my only ferry. An interesting thought. If you don't see yourself as being able to change the world in in a significant enough way to make it comfortable for you? Did you kill yourself? If people are dumb and just keep making dumb decisions and that impacts you and you don't have the ability to prevent it, would theoretically saying I'd rather roll the dice on there being an afterlife that's less shit be a good answer? It's a tough one. Escape from a I don't think you could reasonably say with any degree of certainty that there is an afterlife or that inherently dying will inherently lead you to a better place where people are more competent. As you don't have any evidence to believe in anything after death. In fact, even Marie's presence here only at best tells you that if you die, you'll be in the same world you are, not that you'll go anywhere else. So I don't know. I think you can't claim the existence of a better world unless you want to use some form of religious belief that relies entirely on faith. Or some faith-based belief, right? I think that's what I'd say, is either you have to accept there might not be anything after death, or in the case, since you're meeting an actual ghost, that death will just mean... Death will merely mean being trapped in an ethereal plane on this planet, being unable to interact with anything other than the already dead. So either you're looking forward to the void, or like nothingness, or you're looking forward to being a spirit, not going to a better world. Like, I don't know where that justification or idea comes from. Later. Bye-bye. Well then, take me to that world that suits me. Wait, oh! The girl atop the fence spreads both her arms and leaps into the sky. She doesn't look below her. While looking at the sky above, she flies into that deep blue world. Or at least she probably wanted to fly into the sky like that, however. In an extremely natural way, she fell straight down. It wasn't in dramatic slow-mo or anything of the sort. Leaping from that fence with a whoosh, she was suddenly hit with a crack and splat. In the span of 1 or 2 blinks of an eye, the whole thing was over quickly. The most important event to her was something pointless to the rest of the world. From the disfigured corpse of the girl, slowly a red flower of blood blossomed and slowly began to spread. No one in the courtyard realized the fact that she'd fallen into a hidden thicket. And from the damp, growing puddle of blood, slowly countless buds began to spring up. And those buds slowly spread and opened into large, characteristic flowers. Sucking the blood, dyed a deep red, they were Higanbana. One after the other, the Higanbana began blooming en masse. It was as if they were drinking it from the corpse. And from the thicket of Higanbana, a crimson arm silently sprung up. It became a form that embraced her corpse. It was the yokai whose name was the same as the Higanbana that were blooming. You've waited quite a while, truly. Higanbana laughed, while holding the corpse of the girl tightly, as though imagining of a reunion with her dear friend after 100 years. An affectionate expression appeared on her face. Finally, from the corpse's mouth, slowly, something like a pale smoke came out. It was the girl's soul, one that had been freed from its cage of flesh. A miserable soul that despised this world and believed there would be another more suitable world for her. Good evening, my friends. Good evening. With her slender white fingers, Higanbana tampered with the soul that attempted to ascend into heaven as though teasing it. Oh my, what a truly miserable, shabby soul. Really, truly to my liking. Looks like it really went and turned itself into a real delicacy. Struggling to rise into heaven, the soul tried to escape from the girl's toying fingers. It was exactly like playing with a delicate balloon after the helium had all come out. Higanbana-san, please forgive her. Well, if it isn't Marie. How do you do? I feel sorry for the girl. I'm sure someday she'll realize the error of her ways. Please forgive her. No way. How long do you think it took to raise a soul this delicious? believing she surpassed the rest of the world with flying colors without any basis? Without any great effort on her part, just cursing the world? With a never-wavering belief she was all-knowing and pure? I've discovered a beautifully foolish human. It's a cuisine that takes a lot of time and effort to prepare, you know? Because you tempted her. Tempted? Who, me? You've got me all wrong. I was worried about her. I taught her how to be free. Besides, Marie, you thought you could try and talk to her? This girl's truly arrogant and wouldn't concern herself with trash like you. Conceited and excessively foolish girl. She sneered at the stupidity of the world while ignoring her own. True, she was arrogant. The reality she believed where she was almighty didn't exist. She wasn't as wise as she believed she was, nor as intelligent. What happened was that others could not see the way she saw herself. So as a self-defense mechanism, she'd say it was because she was better than them. So perhaps it was she who was foolish. She was a foolish girl whose opinions and lack of power made her lack the power of being understood by those around her. I only taught this kind of girl the joys of pain. I taught her the way to the infirmary, the way to the hospital. I taught her that self-mutilation could be an escape from it for a brief time. I taught her that to choose death is to liberate oneself from everything in the rest. Slowly, carefully, I prepared her delicate spirit and invited her to die. Finally, the girl threw her life away with her own hands. The yokai that invited her was expecting her below, with her mouth opened wide. That was the dancing Higanbana, the third-ranking school yokai's hunt. Higanbana stopped fiddling with the spirit that had been trying to flee to heaven with a giggle. Being removed from the trap as though it was relieved, the soul slowly started descending to heaven. Her soul finally may understand. Death would not be a freedom, nor a solution. I thought she'd want to appreciate how very precious life is. At Marie's prayer, Higanbana laughed. It's something you should realize while you're still living, right? Don't you think it's unfair to understand that because you're dead? Marie couldn't respond. True. You only reached understanding after dying. Do you expect anyone else to reach it before dying? Bit of an unfair expectation. Now this girl whose name she didn't even know, who'd come to appreciate the gift of life, had no way of taking it back. But even still, at the very least, she had wanted her to understand. But it was all, as Higanbana said, it was all already too late. If there were such a thing as rebirth, I would have hoped that in her next life she would live life to the fullest. However, Marie, who'd already passed on, knew reincarnation doesn't exist. When someone dies, it's the end of everything. So her soul has no need to understand, appreciate, or, much less, rest in peace. Does it? Then all at once, the thicket of Higanbana, like serpents, they shot out quickly and captured the soul that was trying to escape to heaven and swallowed it in their mouths of their petals. I could see what looked like countless snakes imitating flowers leaping upon their prey all at once. The foolish, pitiful soul was greedily torn apart and swallowed by the flower's petals. Thank you for the meal, foolish girl. Sorry, but I don't even remember your name. Marie, this is the story of a foolish girl suffering the consequences of her own actions. I only put an end to it. Yokai tempt humans. They eat the fools who listen to us. Do you have a problem with that? Oh, I don't. Higanbana's kill was as something for a yokai, something filled with love and affection. Higanbana only whispered, "This pitiful girl was able to defy death up until the very end by her own will." In regards to this hunt, Marie was left speechless. The moment Marie realized this foolish girl existed, it was already too late. Although she whispered to her countless times to stop her thoughts of this folly, her words never reached her. If only she'd realized it sooner, maybe she could have stopped her from thinking that way. Oh, do you intend to interfere with my hunt? With a smile on her face, Higanbana gave a small threat. However, soon her shoulders shook from her giggling. Oh, it's okay. In our world, there's plenty of times people go after the same prey. The stronger ones will get the prey. If I'm stronger than you, it'll be my meal. That's all there is to it. Marie, you're my friend, right? That means I don't hate you, so please feel at ease. Higanbana was clearly in a good mood. She'd finally harvested the spoils she'd prepared for so long, and the flavor of that spirit, most likely exceptional. See ya, Marie. Well, I need to go find the next meal. I want to try a frail, bullied kid this time. Someone pitiful who's bullied in their class and has grown tired of living. I'll sweetly whisper to that child, teach them the delight in escaping to the school infirmary, and from then I'll slowly invite them to die. I'm sure a pathetic girl like that's here, because the school is so large and wide. Leaving that as a one-way communication, Higanbana casually disappears, and after that not a single Higanbana flower remained. The large flower of crimson blood was all that stretched out around the unfortunate girl's corpse. Even if Higanbana hadn't whispered to her, the girl would have followed the same route someday. However, if I had realized it earlier, I might have been able to make sure she didn't leave the straight and narrow. Higanbana will find another miserable victim like her and invite them to die. She even gave advance notice she's gonna find a frail, bullied kid to turn into prey. I can't stop Higanbana, but if I find someone likely to be tricked by her first, I might be able to advise them in order to keep them from being misled. Death will never be a resolution nor a liberation. I was unable to help you realize this while you were alive. Sorry. Marie shifted closer to the husk of the girl and softly stroked her face. She couldn't make the face peaceful, although she was able to at least close her eyes. Then she stood up and raised her eyes towards the enormous school building. She was Marie, school yokai of the 8th rank, Meso-san Marie. A girl who passed into death and was able to obtain the lowest seat of the school yokai from her hapless fate. This is the tale of an enormous school boasting a vast number of classes and students. This is the tale of the school yokai and the tormented humans that reside within it. And we've met like 4 of them. Alright. From the moment Yukari Sakaki first knew what it meant to be a bullied child, she immediately became aware she was a perfect nomination. Interesting. So we start off... So it looks like we did like a bit of a cold start. We started off in medias res with a scenario happening. Someone's going up to the school rooftop to kill themselves. Marie sits there and tries to convince them not to jump. They jump all the same and die as Higanbana wanted. They discuss what they're doing, and Marie disagrees with encouraging people to kill themselves, even if you are a spirit, or killing people. She seems like a nice yokai. Higanbana kind of laughs in her face and says she's going to go for another one. And now we jump to, presumably, the next intended victim, and we're going to see if Marie can outwit Higanbana this time. An interesting pitch. We've already seen the inevitable end, so we're on like a bit of a bit of a clock, and we have some interest because we know what will happen if Marie does the same thing or doesn't do anything extra this time. We know there's something bad going to happen to this Yukari Sakaki. It's like we have the quote-unquote villain, or at least this character has this inevitable fate that's slowly closing in on them, and here we have, with this inevitability, kind of like a prophecy. So that's what we the readers see it as, right? That previous scene was basically the same as being told, like, you're the chosen one and you're gonna save the world or some shit, right? It's the same kind of thing where we have some inevitability in the future and we're gonna see if and how it gets carried out. And we go from here in this part of the story. A nice start, I think. We haven't seen one of those yet. So this is a nice device to start off with for a short story. This means this will probably be a longer short story than the previous ones, given how we've started. Or at least that's my prediction here. But I like how we've started with our first couple scenes, getting people interested in the current plot, as well as this, like, competition between Marie and Higanbana. From there, she also understood it was something she urgently had to escape. However, she was still very young and didn't know how she could go about accomplishing that. So, she decided to ask her parents and teachers about it, and this is what they told her. If you retaliate, they'll keep coming for you. Your bullies think it's funny because you respond, right? Just ignore them. Ignore them. If you do that, they won't bully you anymore. That usually doesn't work. She obediently believed this and put it into practice, but somehow it seemed in order to see results, she had to persevere for a considerable amount of time. She couldn't reap the fruits of that hard work overnight, and as a result, today was another day of being a bullied child. Something small hit my head with a pat. Even without looking, I knew what it was. It was a ball someone tore off their eraser. If I acted like I was gonna shake it off, they'd think my reaction was funny, and the bullies would keep hitting me relentlessly, so I pretended I didn't notice it. I could hear the giggling voices as people saw the flecks of eraser stuck in my hair. But if I react, there's no doubt they'll tenaciously bully me more. So just like I was told, I ignored them. I pretended I didn't notice, and with countless flecks of eraser spread throughout my hair, the whole entire time I pretended I didn't notice and endured it. When I had to use the bathroom, I decided to use one that was far away from the classroom, because if I used one close to the classroom, I'd bump into one of the bullies. Even though they were only persistent in class, if I were to run into one of them in this isolated place, I didn't even want to think about it. So I disliked the restrooms close to class, and just like this, I'd go to a different school building and use a different year's bathroom. It's not like I would describe which year or which class's bathroom I would use. However, the far classroom had a peculiar air that seemed territorial, because when I arrived it seemed like I was visiting a foreign land. There wasn't even the slightest hint of a warm, welcoming atmosphere. Who's that? She's an upperclassman, right? What's she doing here? But if I go into a stall like this and close the door, then I can isolate myself from everything. When I'm here, the bathroom stall fits the definition of a sanctuary. Furthermore, there wouldn't be any deck brushes or buckets tossed at me either. I kneeled down as though I'd been drained of all my strength, and with a small shake of my head, I covered my face with both hands. It wasn't because I wanted to cry. I just wanted to cover my face and make my face warm by covering it with my hands. My completely chilled face almost felt the same as my heart. It was cold and hurt so much I only wanted to warm it a little bit. Hi. I wonder why my life at this school is like this. I didn't really know. I wondered, why do we go to a place like school? To be taught things? To practice things like multiplication and division, or how to read and write kanji? I think we could do that kind of thing at home. I concur. But that's not the only reason school exists, so unfortunately you have to attend it. Those are the mechanical, teachable aspects they want you to learn at school. Why do we have to learn this in school? School. I mean, I have an answer for you. Do you want the answer, or let's see if she comes to a conclusion first? My conclusion is that you have physical schools because you're trying to socialize people, to interact with people in the real world, more than simply learning the math, science, etc. You're like, we need to teach people how to interact with people, how to make friends, blah, 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 because it's way the fuck harder in the real world when you're working a job. That is why I think there are physical schools and why people have to attend them. Even though in a lot of places you can still be homeschooled, I think the encouragement from the government to have you attend school instead is for social reasons, not simply because it's the best way to learn or the only way to do it. I wonder why I have to go to school. I don't want to. I don't want to be. Then it won't hurt. The pain in my heart would stop. Once the day is over, I can run away from school for a short time, but when the sun rises, another day will come. I can't escape. I can't escape from this school that torments me. Is there no way? Somehow, isn't there anywhere I can run to? She's in a separate building, so does this mean she's in the building with Marie? I know. There's nowhere. It would be so nice if I could run away by slipping into a wooden pipe or hiding away in a mountain of tires, just like hide and seek. If I get seriously injured and I'm hospitalized, I wonder if I can escape. Huh? Laughter. Just then I felt like somebody was laughing at me from somewhere. But there's no way. I don't feel the presence of anybody else in the bathroom. When elementary school torments you already. People are assholes. That's all I gotta say. People are assholes. Elementary school. Yep, believable. 100% believable. There's no way I heard anything like a laugh. However, I'm sure I heard it. I feel like I did. It was a feeling just like somebody had heard the voice of my heart. And sneered. You can get out of here if you hurt yourself. And then there was mocking laughter as if to say, understand now? That someone continued giggling at me. But that might be it. Even if I run, even if I hide, I can't escape from school. If I want to get away, I'll obviously have to pay some kind of price for it. The price? Injuring myself might be what I have to do. I compared that with how ready I was to pay the price for it. It would let me get away from this school for a little while. Just a little while? Well, no matter what price I pay, won't I have to go back to school sometime? Well, I'm fine with paying whatever price, just so I don't have to return to school again. As long as my body's willing, I'm prepared to pay the greatest price. But that's death, isn't it? The first time I spoke, I felt the weight of that forbidden word. If I die, I won't have to come back to school. I'll be free from school forever. I became aware at last that my fingertips were shaking. They were entwined with sticky sweat drops that bulged at my fingertips. I wasn't shivering from the fear of death. I realized I was equating my own death with freedom from school, and that made me tremble. I learned somewhere people shouldn't die. Someone said it. But why? That's a tough one. That's gonna make you sweat for a while. I don't think you can solve that in one day on the toilet, but maybe you can. I hear it a lot on television. It's even said in dramas, but do they explain why? Having that repeated daily for so long, at some point, these foundationless values had been instilled in me. Well, the foundation... Clearly the foundation wasn't, but the value was. And now it's up to you to establish that foundation. Or to find someone who will give you that foundation, aka religion. It's like this is a tough moment. I can sympathize with this person having to decide why and if it is worth living. That's something you have to go through at some point in your life, presumably. If you aren't just handed all your values. It seems like she's considering it, and she considers the value as foundationless, so she hasn't been given a reason for that. Just that you shouldn't do it. It's like, you shouldn't kill yourself, but why? And it's like, well... People mustn't take their own lives. This is the first time that value has wavered for me. Remember, she says it's foundationless, so that means she's presumably not in any religious belief that would say killing yourself is wrong. Because your religion would provide a moral foundation for you that tells you shouldn't, because there will be consequences if you do that. Namely like depending on your branch of Christianity, that might be like you go to hell or whatever if you kill yourself. I've seen some people who say that's true, and some people who disagree with that. So I'm just giving that as an example. Basically, if you have a threat of punishment in the afterlife for killing yourself, then that is a reason not to kill yourself. Or if there is a reward for your suffering that is significantly worthwhile, that is a reason why you shouldn't do so. Because on the duration of, relative to the duration of your suffering, eternity is a potentially long time, right? So, like, your argument from a Christian perspective here is that even if you think life is fucking awful, if the reward for living the Christian lifestyle is infinite, infinite pleasure or whatever, right? Like, you go to heaven, everything's perfect, and if you don't live that Christian life, you go to hell and you suffer forever. The value of living that Christian lifestyle for your whole life, regardless of how miserable it is, theoretically should outweigh whatever the future has. Now, people are really bad at conceptualizing forever, but you should realistically be able to say to yourself, yeah, okay, 50 years sucks, but 50 years for eternity is a good trade. It's going to be hard because you can't conceptualize eternity, but you should be able to say that consistently, that it should always be a better value proposition. And thus, you shouldn't kill yourself. An interesting conflict for our protagonist. I kind of like this. This might be my favorite arc so far, actually. Favorite chapter so far. Person grappling with a realistic problem due to them being like bullied a bit. Seems good. We haven't even had ignoring the ghost cold opening part that was also kind of cool, giving us some stakes and pressure that builds to this. The fact that this building so far hasn't actually involved the ghost and is just this person's own internal problems is really cool. Because the problems are very real. This part here is a real thing you could experience and have to think through yourself. Whereas, like, the ghosts and the external plot of these two characters trying to get you to kill yourself or not, is like the fantasy or the story element, right? To give this narrative of framework and develop our personal interest, or maintain our personal interest from story to story. That's kind of cool. I mean, that's really cool. Like, really good job. In other words, that meant for the first time I realized that this concept uniformly spoken around the world was a lie. Okay. So what she's saying is she doesn't believe any of these people who are professing you shouldn't kill yourself believe that. Now, that might be true for some people, but I think she's projecting her lack of belief or reason in this onto other people. And there are some things that some philosophies do not sufficiently cover, or just project things. I think that's like a problem with Stoicism. Is like Stoicism doesn't really give a solid argument for why you should be a good or civilized person over anything else. It's like, why it's like, oh, there's inherent value in this, and you're like, but why is there inherent value? You can't just say there's value in something. But in this case, she hasn't actually said that, maybe because the person's young and doesn't understand other people's perspectives. Like, if you haven't been introduced to like the foundation or a core philosophy that says why you should actually not kill yourself, then you wouldn't be able to understand why someone says that, and you wouldn't necessarily even know to look if you don't have an interest in any form of philosophy or thoughts like this. Or you haven't thought of something like this before, so you've never, like, Googled it before, right? This is also set possibly before common access to the internet, so you maybe can't even look this stuff up, right? Or it might be very difficult to look this stuff up by yourself. I knew that the world itself was made of lies. Yeah, pretty much, okay. This tightly packed bathroom stall with 4 walls when I'm not there to see it. Just how many lies and how much ridicule fills the outside of it, I wonder. That girl, she still comes to this bathroom, huh? Isn't she from a different grade? Why does she come to this bathroom? It seems she's being bullied. Isn't she always cowering? She's been in that stall forever, hasn't she? It's like she's making her own room or something. Do people actually pay attention to who's in a bathroom stall, other than that they aren't able to go to the bathroom because there's, like, no space? I honestly don't care. Like, I just check if there's someone in the... If I want to go to the bathroom, I check if there's someone in there, in the stall or whatever, and then I just don't give a shit if there's someone in there. I'm like, oh, someone's in there. Fuck, that's annoying. Move on. Or F, that's annoying. Move on. And otherwise, I don't care. It's not relevant to me who's in the bathroom. If she likes the bathroom, then she should just live on the toilet. Yeah, this might be this character's projections of what people are whispering to each other. Like, she might be projecting this. She's like, she hears someone come in and she might be thinking they're like wondering why she's in the bathroom. Like, she is being self-conscious, right? And so these are not necessarily voices she's hearing, especially because they're not in quotes. These might be her perception of what someone's thinking while she's in the bathroom. Because, you know, a reasonable person, you know, most people aren't gonna like try to look in the most people, including all the people she's thinking are talking about her, aren't looking in the stall, checking to see if she has her pants down, timing how long she's been in there, and being like, oh, has she flushed the toilet? Or what's going on? Like, has she made any noise that's appropriate for someone to go to the bathroom? Like, no one's doing that, right? But she's thinking that they have, like, the perspective she has, and that they can tell she's not actually going to the bathroom. She's, like, sitting on the toilet thinking. Or trying to, like, de-stress or relax or whatever, right? And so she thinks they're all talking about her. So it's her being self-conscious. This is just a scene of, like, someone being self-conscious. Their own thoughts being reflected as, like, potential dialogue from the people coming in or out. Okay. And, like, theoretical laughter. They're not laughing at her, but she doesn't know that. She predicts that they're laughing at her because, you know, that is what she thinks these mean people would potentially be doing. A little bit self-centered, but it's like one of those fear things where you're just, like, sitting there and you're like, you know, what could they be talking about? Oh my god, they could be talking about me. Like, oh man, this could be... Oh. That's how I think it's going. It's like one of those things where you're like... It's like when you're playing, like, when you're hiding from someone and you hear them coming down the hallway. And it's like, are they coming for me? Do they figure out where I am? Like, you're thinking, it's all about you, and it's, like, possible they're just, like, walking by. Like, they have no clue. Yes! A voice like that shouldn't sound like laughter. Everything was my delusion. As if I couldn't forgive my mind for birthing the idea, I gripped my head as if tearing, beating, and smashing it. And there we go. Everything was my delusion. So she's clearly just thinking this is what people are talking about her being self-conscious. Alright, cool. It's a good way to describe the feeling, I think. It was as if my skull was fracturing with a crackling pain. It made sense. I was gripping my head, thinking to break it, and if I die, I can get away from school. I don't think you can physically hold your head with enough force to crush your skull. Yeah, if you have superhuman might, that might be possible. Or would be possible. If I die, I can get away from school. No matter how far I run, no matter where I hide. It's the only escape from this inescapable nightmare. I'll die, and if I die, well, I can escape from here. Useless. Death resolves nothing. It offers no freedom. I thought those tormenting words and voices of laughter were somehow my own delusions, but this voice was different. I couldn't hear it with my ears, but I somehow heard it clearly. And that voice whispered to my heart, kindly giving me a clear response to my words that sought death. Those warm words were someone had prayed to me were absolutely not from my imagination. Startled, I looked at the area around me. However, all that surrounded me were the white walls of the stall. With my eyes open, I can't hear the voice. With my eyes open, I couldn't sense it at all, but if I close my eyes, I really can hear a voice. I even felt as if someone was next to me. Could it be a ghost or a yokai? Now that I think about it, didn't I hear in some bathroom there was this yokai known as Meso Meso-san? But wasn't that in the old school bathrooms? No, if it's a bathroom in the school, she might be able to appear anywhere. I'm thinking of such a bad thing like killing myself. I might have drawn a yokai to me. In a moment, I thought I might be cursed and killed by a yokai. Afro Man, thank you for the raid, my dude. Reading some Higanbana, and it's a particularly depressing tale, but it's an interesting one. The protagonist was recently, who is in elementary school and being bullied, was grappling with suicide and their belief in the lack of a moral foundation for not or a logical or moral foundation for not killing yourself, which is an interesting thought. The person is presumably atheistic, or perhaps just like, you know, the general religiosity level of Japan. So it was an interesting thought of like, why shouldn't you kill yourself? Okay, like, real question, Why not? You think life is suffering? Why not kill yourself? Good question, difficult to grapple with, especially if you're, say, I don't know, in like grade 6 or 8. I can totally understand that. The perspective, it could be rough, right? From like, that could be really rough to grapple with for everyone, especially someone who's there. And, you know, I've been through that, and probably someone else in chat has been through that, right? Where, like, at some point you have to wonder, like, okay, man, this sucks. Like, you know, why not? Why not? I mean, you're in a bad spot. Why not? It might come to you. Where you're trying to, like, formulate your own ideas. It's kind of cool. BB's actually got some art redeemed, so I gotta check that out. What were you guys up to in Afroman's stream? Presumably not grappling with the morality or logic of suicide. That's a pretty dense and heavy topic, but it's a cool story. Yeah, don't want to be killed or cursed by a yokai. Instead of being afraid, rather, I was a little anxious. I was slightly anticipating the freedom that being murdered by a yokai could grant me. But perhaps it wasn't that kind of a feeling. I was a little glad that for just a moment, even if it was just my own mind, someone had given me those words. Who is it? Whose voice spoke with me? Saying that in my mind, once again the voice replied. This time I could hear it. I could hear it clearly. Dying is useless. Don't think of death as a way to save yourself. Now, Meso-san, aka Marie, the person who's presumably whispering this, does not have a philosophy as to why you shouldn't kill yourself. She has a practical reason, and that is solely because she is already dead. That she can give that opinion. She can be like, death is not an out, because from my perspective, I've seen what happens to people who get lured in by Higanbana's desire to get people to kill themselves. She waits till you kill yourself, then eats your soul. It's a bad outcome. And if you die, you're probably going to hell and it's going to suck. And I can know that because I've actually met a soul that we dredged out of hell for like 2 hours. And they said it was the worst thing ever. So, she has actual experience, which is not a philosophical answer, so I'm curious if she will try to tell her that I've been there, I've died, I don't know that. And the issue is, sometimes people who haven't experienced something don't believe someone with experience. And I can say that happens to me, and it probably happens to you too. So, saying, from my experience, it's not worth it, doesn't mean it's not worth it for someone else, right? Like, you can say it wasn't worth it to play this game, but if a super fan of the series comes along, they'll probably say it was still worth it. Like, what's a good example? Some people might say it's not worth it to read Stay Night, okay? But if you're a fan of the Fate franchise, maybe it's worth it because you get more details, or you get scenes you wouldn't have seen in the anime, right? They might just say, oh, just watch the anime, and I say, well, you want a bit more detail, you want a bit more understanding of the characters, you want some extra fun scenes that you don't get in the anime, like, you know, what happens after you die or when you make a bad decision, which honestly in Stay Night's really funny, so I'd recommend getting yourself killed in as many ways as possible. I know we're doing some serious stuff, but that game, real fun when you get trash talked by Taiga and Ilya for dying. Really funny. Those are some of the best scenes in the novel. So yeah, like, sometimes experience is not... And actually, I can use a good example of that. I did not think it was worth it to have the adult scenes in the first 2 routes. They were not worth it at all. And you know what? People online also tell you that. You also get an achievement for getting all of them. Correct. There's also an achievement and an extra scene for getting all of the failure scenes. But the important thing is that not only is it like something that people might recommend you not hit or hit something else because you can just watch the anime, which is really good. So it might not be worth it to you. Different things have different value propositions to different people. But it's also a relevant example of something that where people online said it wasn't worth it, and the conclusion is generally that it's probably not worth it. And I still did it anyway, even though other people with experience said not to. And I mean, it wasn't something super serious, but they said it all seems not worth it. And I was like, I want to read it the original way, I'm going to do it anyway. I read them, and I gotta say, Fate Root and Unlimited Blade Works adult scenes, not worth it. Heaven's Feel, it had one good scene, and I think it was appropriately used. It was appropriately used, it had like the right tone surrounding it, it wasn't super awkward, and it was kind of okay. It wasn't like, oh wow, this is like the hottest scene ever. It was like, okay, the lead in and lead out seemed appropriate, the setting seemed like fair, like appropriate setting. It didn't seem forced. It was like a decent scene. The framing was decent instead of being like awkwardly shoehorned in and feeling insanely awkward because no one's really into it in Heaven's Feel. So there, I have an experience where someone told me not to do it, namely like half the internet community, which I ignore anyway. So experience sometimes just the best teacher. Your favorite parts of Shiro are that he gets all those dead ends, and you can have him happy and Emi Gohan. Yeah. Exactly. Some of the best parts are actually some of the routes where you die. Because Liner High in Heaven's Feel is also a route where Shiro dies. And that is one of his best scenes. That is one of his coolest scenes, I'll say. And that is only accessible if you fuck up, so it's obviously not going to be put in the anime or movie, because there are no failure conditions in the movie. You always do like a route that would succeed. Because, nobody likes randomly getting a bad ending and they're like, well, game over. Although, it would be interesting, you think, to see like a visual novel where they actually interpret some of the bad endings. I mean, they kind of do that in like ReZero and stuff, but it's like a different framing, whereas rather than you being a person reading a visual novel and making random decisions, it is the character getting forced to restart it, which is a very different way of doing things. Similar concept, but like very different from a narrative perspective. So who are you? Where are you talking to me from? Then the owner of the voice became silent. It was obvious it wasn't human. It's probably a yokai, and yokai are much stronger than humans and bullies. After all, school for them shouldn't be anything to be afraid of. If only it could triumphantly expound its name, but the owner of the voice, as if it would be a shame to bring its identity to light, was silent. In a panic, I apologized for what I just asked. Sorry. You're probably not human. Thanks for speaking with me. It's because I thought if I didn't talk to you, you would have died. Why shouldn't I kill myself? Okay, that's a big question. And I'm interested to see how Marie responds to this question. Because she only has experience, I don't think she has a coherent philosophy. Because the complaint of what's-her-face, whose name I just forgot because she was introduced like 20 minutes ago. Her complaint was that there's no foundation or basis for people to say not to kill themselves or people shouldn't die. Well, more specifically, people shouldn't die. There is no foundation for that. Like, oh wow, dying is bad. There's no foundation for that. Which there is a foundation, and I think most people could probably come up with one if they really looked at it. So I'm curious, and she said that was a lie. So presumably she doesn't believe there's an answer. So what Marie, who's sort of telepathic because all yokai can read minds, should be trying to do is tell someone why living is better than being dead. Or directly answering this question, right? The question on her mind was, why is living better than being dead? Because life is suffering. So you and Marie need to answer this, or directly answer the question, why shouldn't I kill myself, in a way that might also fulfill that question. If you die, your mom and dad will grieve for you. Okay. This is a common thought. Okay. Why shouldn't I kill myself? I will inflict suffering on other people. Other people will be sad for my loss. Presumably your parents, because you're an elementary schooler. Okay. Is that a strong argument? I don't know if that's a strong argument. I don't think that is. Specifically for your mom and dad, I don't know if that's a good argument. I don't know if that's a super strong argument for your parents. Especially at this age, where you aren't necessarily friends with them, and you may not value them as much as you might later on. And the reason it's a bad argument is you could also say, they brought me into this world to suffer. I don't want to be in it. I don't want to participate in their shitty game. Basically, you can, like, blame them for the situation you're in because they are the ones who created you. So it's not necessarily the best choice. Having, like, friends or someone you genuinely care about might be a better argument. But even then, you would have to say, why should this person's, why would this person's sadness be more relevant than my own? Right? This is a very, very conditional argument that I don't think would apply or appease me. Because it just doesn't work. It's like, okay, wow, why shouldn't I kill myself? Oh, someone else will be sad. I want to kill myself. I'm pretty fucking sad. Where is my happiness in this factor? Are you saying I should only live because of someone else? What happens if they die? Now you have no reason to go on living, right? So, like, this argument is bad because it prioritizes someone else over you. So, like, your feelings are irrelevant. And then, what happens if they naturally die? So your parents will eventually die, okay? Presumably, because you are younger than them, if nothing bad, nothing exceptional happens, they will die before you. What is your argument for continuing living after they are dead? Presumably, the argument would be that you had found something by then, another reason to continue living. But if they died the next day, then you wouldn't have that argument. So it's kind of weak. And so you're basically only living because someone else is alive. Your friends and your teachers too. I mean, for teachers, friends is a better argument. Teachers, not a good argument. You don't value your teachers. I don't think you really value, especially as people. You don't really value them, especially in elementary school. So you're like, why would I give a fuck about my teacher? They're all assholes. Like, all this person does is cause me suffering. I barely have any relationship with them. Their evaluation doesn't work. That said, Marie is like 13, okay? Maria's not like 20 years old. She hasn't been a school yokai for ages, as far as we can tell. So she is coming up with arguments the best she can after she's died that she's maybe just pondered because she's had nothing better to do. Or these were her own justifications while she was alive. And again, she's not a philosopher. She's a random 12-year-old kid who was murdered. So she doesn't necessarily an expert in this. She's just trying to talk to someone. Okay. Do I have friends who would grieve for me if I died? See? There she hits back, saying the argument situational, and she's like, I don't know if my friends would actually grieve for me if I died. Good thought. So now she's saying, like, well, I don't even have one of those, so that may not work. Another reason why this is a bad argument, because basically it's entirely situational, predicated on you having people who you care about their happiness more than your own, enough to not value your own happiness. Which is also, like, pretty bad for your own, like, self-image, or self-esteem, sorry. Even when I'm tormented, everyone just laughs. I don't think they'd care, even if I wasn't here. As long as you're alive, there'll be fun things to do. There's a better argument. Okay, you're like, future pleasure. This is an argument for future pleasure. You're like, sure, life sucks right now, but next year, life might get better, or there'll be something interesting for you to pursue in the future that will be worth it. That is a potentially better argument. It depends on what someone is interested, what they personally find interesting, or if it's plausible, but it is an argument. You're saying, like, okay, the situation is bad, but it is bad because of the present circumstances that might change. Basically, you're saying that there is a state that is, you're saying, like, okay, so death might be a state that is preferable to here, but there might be a state that is even more preferable than being dead in the future, and reaching something like that would be better. That is a good argument, as it acknowledges the reality of the person's desire to die, while also predicting the possibility of something that could be better than what they're pursuing, but also something that is, that requires them not to kill themselves. You're like, how about this? The possibility of something better coming. Now, it helps if they have an attachment or an interest here that they liked or do like, or something that they could potentially pursue. But you don't necessarily know that, so this also hinges on things, but this is also things that you can manage internally, right? So I can say, I can personally have an interest in something, right? I can have an interest in, say, reading visual novels. We're reading one right now, right? I can have an interest in visual novels, and that could be like, oh, a new visual novel release is theoretically a potential thing that could happen at any time, but it's something I could enjoy and pursue in my own time that would, say, give me a reason not to end my existence, because if I don't exist, if I'm dead, then I can't read more visual novels, right? Regardless of how I think the afterlife is, presumably I can't read visual novels. You know, this person thinks it might be a void, or there might be, like, you might turn to a vengeful spirit that can't do anything. So this might be a potential thing if they have an interest that they think might potentially come back, even if they don't have, like, a particular interest, and they're like, man, all the visual novels coming out these days fucking suck. It's like, well, will they suck in 20 years? Maybe. Maybe not. You don't actually know for sure. Even if you're like, wow, it's 85% sure, it's like, yeah, but would you really take up, like, would you really, like, play games with, like, this 1% chance that nobody good writes a novel? Maybe you're the person who has to write the novel. Maybe you create a revival yourself, right? Like, these are projections of the future that you can't really predict, but something like that, or maybe an interest in something that already exists that you could continue participating in the future or find a way out, might be an okay argument. I like this argument better than caring about your friends and family's feelings on your own self-termination. Pursuit of something or a goal is a possible reason because it's an internal motivation that acknowledges the person's own feelings and interests, acknowledges the reality that they might value this, and that there might be something else they value. But it obviously has flaws if someone's really depressed and says, like, I don't really enjoy anything. You're in a tough spot and you need to come up with a better argument. If they're like, well, I don't like anything, there's nothing I like, I've never found anything I like, I just, like, drift all day, like, how do we deal with this? Or how do we deal with someone who's, like, super depressed? This person's being bullied and thinks suicide's a way out, so they might still have interest. But if someone's just depressed in general, I don't know if this argument would work. Because when you're depressed, generally you lose interest in things that you used to hold interesting. Which means that an argument like this doesn't work. This person is being bullied, though, so Marie's on a better track here. As they don't necessarily hate everything. They might just hate their circumstances. There's nothing like that in school. School ends. School ends. There's nothing fun to do in school. School ends. Easy answer. School ends. It's very temporary, relatively speaking, to your entire life. Elementary school is very short. It's a small portion of your life. You will get past it. I think that is a conclusive argument to say it's, like, really hard to predict that. It's really hard to understand how short it is, and it's a really long time right now, but it might be a short time in the future. And I think you need a better argument to support that, because from this person, you need a better argument to support that, but that is a solid argument from the perspective of someone who is not in elementary. So you're like, this time sucks, but the future it's going to be better because it's so little of your lifetime. That said, from her position, it is a significant portion of her life and a seemingly interminable part. So you need to come up with a better and or supporting argument to say it's only a little bit of time. Otherwise, they don't see anything because it's so much of their life, but it's so little of yours if you're, like, an older person, right? So I'm in my 20s, so this is, like, a very, elementary school, relatively short portion of my time, relative to how it was when I was actually in elementary school. If you keep going, someday you'll graduate school, you know. Okay, good. Can we get a supplementary argument from Marie? I like this. It's a straightforward answer. It's a natural answer that should spring to mind, but it's also an answer that the person who's suicidal has probably already thought of. They're like, oh, it'll end, but is it worth it? So you need to come up with a follow-up to this, even though it's like the natural response, remind them of this in the event they somehow forgot or don't see an end, or at least get their opinion on how far away it is. Graduate? How many years do I wait here? Being bullied until then. See? Exactly. It feels like an incredibly long period of time for them. So you need to come up with a follow-up argument. Also a perfectly reasonable response from Miss Suicidal. You see, I used to be bullied, so I really understand how you feel. This was unexpected, because even a yokai who held amazing power had been bullied before. I thought, could it be? I wondered if she was bullied, chose to end her life, and then became a yokai? Wanting to die to become a yokai is useless. I'm sorry. Can I have my revenge on those bullies with the power of becoming a yokai? With those words, she slapped my small hope away. I am a yokai. I live in the night of this school. Does bullying happen in the school at night too? Yes. It's crueler than it is in the day. Don't think if you become a yokai you won't be bullied any longer. Just how powerless dead souls are and how cruel the brutality becomes, I don't think you can quite understand that while you're still alive. But that is actually a solid argument. This is an argument from experience, but it's also an argument from an experience this person will never have unless they kill themselves. And you're like, okay, I've freaking died, man. This also means she doesn't have another moral or logical argument, or isn't presenting one at this time. Her argument from experience is correct, especially given how yokai work. You could say it's objectively correct, as yokai are incentivized to murder people and cause them suffering. Therefore, the bullying will continue because yokai gain strength from causing suffering. Since that is like the reality, that yokai exist longer because they murder people, and they murder people like based on some specific set of MOs that they live off of eating literal souls. Obviously, they're going to murder people. Therefore, it's in their interest to like cause people to suffer. So yeah, obviously, it's like that's a good argument and it's concrete from her perspective. I don't know how well she'll take that. Our suicidal protagonist here. But we'll see. By the time you find out for yourself, it's going to be already too late. Yeah. Example from the start of the story. Exactly what happened. And especially, souls that choose to end their own lives are a yokai's favorite food. Yeah, if you kill yourself, you're literally going to become yokai food. And she's like, don't kill yourself, because that's what it's going to be. That is something you don't want to find out, right? You could use this argument. This is like an argument from religion, right? This is your foundation. You can consider this argument, substitute being eaten by a yokai for going to hell. Okay? Same argument. Predicates you believe that the concept or the religion is accurate. So in this case, you believe that yokai are real. Which presumably, since you're talking to one, you have a pretty good argument for, from your perspective, the yokai is real. Because the yokai itself just fucking told you they like eating souls. So, you're presumably believing in this yokai, or at least considering they might exist, then this argument seems to hold water. Yokai like eating souls. Don't kill yourself because the yokai will eat your suicidal soul. Like, alright. Seems like an argument that holds water. And it's presumably something you don't want to test yourself. This is something you wouldn't want to wager yourself. I've already seen this firsthand. All these souls regret thinking they'd be better off dead, but then it's already too late. They're put through horrific tortures in the abyss for eternity. It seems like I've heard about this before. I feel like during special studies when a Buddhist priest came for some reason, he talked about something like that. But he couldn't compare with the authenticity of a yokai who was talking about the exact same thing. First-hand experience. So this person's evaluating this. I guess I would say an actual spirit of the dead talking to you would probably be a relevant source of first-hand information about the afterlife. Yeah, I think I'd have to evaluate that as a very weighty comment on whether or not you should kill yourself. Well, then what are you suggesting I do, Yokai-san? Yokai-san? The bullying in the world after death is even more painful. You're saying for now I should stay here and keep being bullied like this? Yeah, not a great outcome. But saying that it would be worse if you killed yourself in the afterlife is relatively is unpleasant but valid, right? It's not a happy thing to hear, like, oh, life sucks. Well, like it will be worse if you do this. Okay, I won't do that. Until I graduate during that very long span of time, should I keep being bullied here like this? The argument is still predicated on your belief that that person is speaking the truth and isn't deceiving you for some reason or incorrect, right? In this case, we have a pretty strong tie to this person in that they are a literal spirit from the afterlife, so they're probably right. So I don't think she would doubt her, but it's like, does your desire for change, your desire for a change in your miserable situation outweigh your trust in this person that the change would be worse? That's like the wager that Marie's taking. She's like, trust in the yokai over the feeling that any change would be better than the current state. You have to fight back. Fight? I couldn't do something like that. If I did, I'll just invite needless bullying on myself. First, you should fight those whispers of the wicked yokai inviting you to free yourself through death. Well, I suppose. Then try asking for help from those around you. Try asking your parents and teachers. Once I neglected to do that, and I brought everything on myself. Ask for help from my parents, my teachers? Those words put a gash in my heart. It wasn't sadness, it was anger. I asked for help from my parents and my teachers. Their response was, ignore them. However, at some point I realized I wasn't the one who was ignoring others. Rather, it was my parents and teachers who were ignoring me. Bullying is bullying because bullied kids speak up about it. Then even if something's being done to those kids, if they hang their heads in silence, it's no longer bullying. So the bullying stops. That didn't solve anything. I said since I'd react, everyone would find it funny and bully me more. Even though I believed them when they said that. Even though I really tried. No matter how much time passed, it resolved nothing. It resolved nothing at all. In the end, no one could save me, even though I asked my parents and teachers for help. No one could help me. No one. Ah. Well, now what? Now Marie's got to come up with a solution to bullying. Tougher one. Also a tough one. For very different reasons. This pitiful girl, Yukari Sakaki, she tried everything she was supposed to try, believing the strict advice of ignoring the bullying she had endured until today, and yet already her heart was starting to come apart. And then before long, her ears started to receive the sweet whispers of yokai inviting her to kill herself. Or perhaps it was because she chose to hear them that she realized she could escape if she were to die. Marie deeply sympathized with the girl. Yukari Sakaki once was a very average girl that one could find in any class. She wasn't particularly the target of any bullying, and unconsciously she passed her days in peace as bland as a shade of gray, quite an average girl. The assault of sudden misfortunes on her began a year ago. Her mother passed away in a traffic accident. Oh, rip her mom. That itself deeply wounded her heart, but for her the long period afterwards was painful. Her father, as far as she could tell, had lost his spirit. Although he was inefficient at it, he struggled hard to support both the household and his work. However, he was inexperienced in housework, and coexisting with his work that had been busy from the beginning started breaking her father down more and more. It was always gloomy, and the inside of the house that had become filled with trash and newspapers scattered about had already lost the peace of a family. In the beginning, her father tried his best and helped with the laundry. Yukari also helped, seeing her father was suffering, but then the gloomy atmosphere started eating at her, and gradually her willpower was snatched away. So she started often wearing the same unwashed clothes, and they gradually started getting dirty. It was pointed out to her by her classmates, but their words couldn't reach her worn-out ears. And one day, Yukari realized that she was being called filthy and foul, and people in class were talking about her behind her back. Well, start wearing clean clothes, I guess. After her mother's death, even her father gradually began to get back on his feet. Whatever horrific emotional scars we might have, time will gently mend them, and with that, when Yukari Sakaki returned to her former world, at some point, she'd become a target for the bullies in class. Knowing that much, Maria hung her head, and despite how well she knew Yukari, she'd recommended Yukari ask her parents for help so she'd become speechless from her own insensitivity. But yeah, that's a rough one. In the beginning, Maria had thought Yukari was a weak-minded human who was choosing suicide as a simple escape. Yeah, tough. You gotta ask questions, I suppose, before you propose a solution here, right? You don't basically put your foot in your mouth. Because she didn't ask if they tried asking for help. She said, try asking for help. And she's like, bro, I already did that. Like, I'm not a dumbass. Come on. Which is, yeah, a big mistake. She's like, oh yeah, by the way, my mom's dead. Like, I can't ask her for help, bro. I can see how awkward that is for Marie. That's probably why you want to ask a question, even if it might sound dumb. You ask the question with the assumption that they may have tried it or simply forgot, right? I think that's a bit less insulting. To say something like, I know this is gonna sound dumb, have you already asked for help? Have you tried reaching out to your parents? Or the teachers? Like, it's the thing people presumably think of, but you know, it's always something you gotta confirm that someone's already done before you propose anything else, right? You need to frame it in that way. It's like the turning it on and off, right? Something's not working. Have you tried turning it on and off? Like, when you're doing tech support, you have to ask that question. Even if you know half the people on the line probably already did that and that's why they're calling you. Like, you're like, dude, I know I have to ask this because, you know, someone's gonna freaking forget. And it actually happens. Sometimes you call, and they're asking for help. They turn it on and off again, and it freaking works. And you're just like, wow, I just saved myself 2 hours of troubleshooting. Like, we saved both of us 2 hours of troubleshooting for this easy call. And then, like, half the time, actually, when that happens, they'll actually, like, apologize for wasting your time. It's really funny. And you're just like, no. This is good, because if I didn't ask you that, we would have both wasted, like, 30 minutes not having done that. We both saved a lot of time by me just asking that simple question. Even though it's the most obvious solution there is. However, she'd completely misunderstood. Since her painful experience with her mother's death, she'd recovered and shown courage to return back to her former world. Even so, her own place in the world she returned to had disappeared. And yet she put up with and endured the senseless bullying. She asked her parents and her teachers and others for help, and she strictly adhered to and believed their irresponsible advice to just ignore it. In the end, she was reduced to cowering in the small bathroom stall, tasting her own tears. How could she call her a weak-minded human who simply chose suicide as an escape? Knowing that much, Marie believed it. Yukari, although she hadn't realized it, was truly a strong person. The unfortunate and senseless bullying, the yokai whispers, wishing to invite her death, they crushed what little was left of her heart. And if I ignore her like this, well, there's no way other yokai will let this unfortunate, tasty-looking girl go. No, there's no way Higanbana-san will overlook her. I have to save her. She already wanted to be saved by her father and teachers, and since no one could save her, this time, it'll have to be me. I understand. At a time like this, when you can't be saved by anyone, even so, if there only was someone who could save you, I understood that feeling more than anyone. Marie Moria decided, the 8th ranked of the school yokai, Meso-San Marie, decided she would save her. She decided she'd save Yukari Sakaki from her torment. Watch where you're going. An uproar of laughter follows afterwards. Yukari Sakaki decided to run away at the same time class ended. Someone's gym bag knocked her in the back. Staggering from that, she bumped her head against the wall, and the girl showered her with words of scorn. They were the ones always finding fault with Yukari, but they were her bullies. The entire class bullied her, or perhaps they approved of it. Among them, there's the leader of a particularly persistent, ill-reputed gang. What, you got something you want to say? Say it. It was clearly meant to provoke her. In response, no matter what she said, she'd just be ridiculed, or it would rouse them to bully her more. Yukari bit her lower lip, endured her inner emotions that cooled them. She wouldn't even let her eyes meet theirs. In truth, she had to keep moving. If she were to stop here like this, just by turning around even halfway, she'd lose that power of ignoring the bullies. And so, without showing them any more reaction than that, she quickly left. At her back, snickers, haughty laughs, sarcastic laughs, sniggers, and every sort of sneer were tossed at her. I had to keep going. Since I reacted, everyone's amused. I'm glad I kept going after reacting. But how long do I have to keep going? Doing this till I'm saved, I wonder? At the time for Yukari, naturally, there was no answer. Or there was one, if she had to think of it. Yesterday, the yokai told her. But now Yukari couldn't think of it. Yukari's heart had turned to ice, and as she forced herself not to think of anything, she walks down the hallway. Not in a hurried pace, but as she always does. If they were to even see her running off from the classroom, they might have taken that as her showing them a reaction. When Yukari was gone, the classroom returned to the usual bustle during the break period. And mysteriously, that scene when Yukari was no longer there, like an optical illusion, it seemed as if the existence of bullying had disappeared entirely. It seemed like an ordinary break. The only ones still talking about Yukari were the group of bullies. They were having a friendly chat about how best to harass Yukari next time. It was exactly like this. Oh, she keeps ignoring us, that bitch. I'm so gonna make her cry. She's seriously unbelievable. Oh, piss her off, that'd be a freaking riot. She seems like the spazzing type. How about bringing a box cutter? I'd laugh, that would so make me laugh. I think she should cry. I get a real thrill out of seeing her cry. Crying? She's probably already been crying, I tell you. She's a total spaz, that girl. I want to see her cry too. Osaki-kun, what do you think? What do you think? Being asked that, the eyes of the bullies gather on a lone boy. Even though he was 2 grades above them, he passed for a particularly large physique. The boy called Ozaki was their ringleader. He was the perpetrator who hit Yukari with his gym bag. Mean? Well, either's fine, but his expression was the opposite of his words. I don't mind if we cut her or if we make her cry. I'm pissed off. That inconsiderate attitude she has of, I'm not even bothered, fucking pisses me off. When he was speaking, it was like a pleasant topic, and he grinned wide. To them, bullying Yukari Sakaki was a sport. In sports, it's not about the result, but it's about enjoying the spirit of the competition. And to them, bullying Yukari Sakaki was no different. To them, driving a girl to cry or making them go into a frenzy, whether these things go to plan or betray their expectations, either is fine. The process itself was truly fun. It's something they probably knew best. And bullying Yukari Sakaki was just that. To them, it was a game. And because they appreciated it and laughed, even for the entire class, it was a game. She thinks she can just ignore us like that? She should cry because we want her to cry. We'll put an end to her smugness for sure, and after all, that girl, her clothes, well, they're both dirty, which means she stinks. Since Yukari was wearing the same clothes for some time, it was true they had gotten dirty. However, it was only temporary. After she recovered from the sadness of losing her mother, she hadn't repeated the same offense since then, even once. But because people were saying Yukari's clothes were dirty and smelly, no matter what clothes she tried to wear or what fragrance she tried, it didn't matter. The assessment she faced had become exactly that. But hey, Ozaki-kun, don't you think we'll be in deep shit if we take it too far and she writes a will or something? No, of course not. For real? I mean, come on, even during our time with that one girl, she didn't write a will, did she? The bullied kids all met each other's eyes. Ah, they said as they put on expressions like they remembered and gestured with a clap of their hands. It was like they'd forgotten what they ate for dinner last night, and their reactions showed that moment of finally remembering it. That's how they treated it. Oh, you're right, that did happen. It did. I'd completely forgotten. She didn't kill herself, it just looked like an accident. A simple old accident. She just slipped right off the roof. Yep, one of those awful accidents. The teacher even said there was no evidence of her being bullied, right? That's right. They have already driven one person to kill themselves. And there was no investigation. That's very impressive. But it's fine. Teachers like turning a blind eye to all these problems anyway. That wasn't bullying at all. As officially recognized by the teacher. And that's why there's no way Sakaki's gonna off herself. Even if she dies, it'll just be an accident. There's no way she'll write a will. Well, I guess you're right. I mean, who the hell is bullying Sakaki anyway? We aren't bullying her. Oh, of course not. We're so affectionate and loving. The leader, Ozaki, was mumbling something in slang only they could understand. It was a big success, so laughter spread throughout the class. They didn't know what he said, but it wasn't hard to imagine it was something insulting Yukari Sakaki. Marie was watching the exchange in the shadows of the classroom, her eyes fixed on Ozaki, who was repeating those words, ridiculing Yukari. Twilight after school, most of the students had already gone home, and the ones who were playing in the courtyard were scrambling to be the first to finish with cleaning duty. It was that sort of evening. While smacking his lips, Ozaki once again passed under the school gate. His parents were both working and wouldn't be home until late. It was his daily routine to drop in at a friend's house without going straight home. After that, he'd come back home and wait for his parents while watching TV. As he thought about that on his way home, he noticed he didn't have his key. I'm sure I had it. Maybe I dropped it at school? That shouldn't have... Going home to an empty house and fishing out his key from his pocket in front of the door would have been normal for Ozaki. But today he was suddenly incapable of such a routine task. He kept smacking his lips over and over again at this small and unexpected misfortune. His key wasn't at his friend's house he'd stopped by at. He retraced his steps for the entire day, and the last place he arrived at was the school gates. There were a lot of periods in just one day at school, and after finally being able to leave, having to go through the gates again. With that thought, he had a terrible feeling, almost like being the only one in the family to draw a terrible luck fortune at a shrine. Who? The campus was dark as far as he could see. It was the world called school that they supposedly spent half their lives at. A place they'd attend for several years, a place that, even just by looking at it, would make them fed up. School. But still, when swallowed by the twilight, the school building and the entrance, it looked like a scene he'd never seen before. Now he'd become self-aware. Everything he knew about the school he'd already become bored of was in the daylight. Half the day was in the light of the sun. The other half was in the dark of the night. Yep, straightforward. Stretching inside the darkness, the large entranceway had a gaping emptiness to it. It looked like a gargantuan creature's mouth that would crush and devour a human being. And so Ozaki reluctantly passed through the crevices of its gums into the hatchway. Was my key with me when I was at the shoe rack? Oh, I can't remember. He looked all around the front of the shoe rack but couldn't find anything that looked like a key. Even after looking under the matting in the rack, he couldn't see his key. If it's not here, he'd have to take off his shoes and slip into his indoor slippers. As far as Ozaki was concerned, doing that was more unpleasant than having to go back through the school gates again after already having gone home once. He put on the same slippers just as he had during the daylight hours. However, he didn't expect he'd be so cold, damp, and be this heavy after nightfall. The gloomy hallway of the school building was so long he felt as though it continued on for eternity. In the darkness, a one-eyed monster glared at him with its red eye shining with displeasure. In the day, it was just a fire alarm he wouldn't even think twice about. The school of the night and the school of the day were very different places, even different dimensions. It was about this time he recalled the numerous ghost stories about the school at night. The story of a past principal who'd kidnapped kids, spiriting them away. It said one of the paintings of the past principals decorating the principal's office would glare and its eyes would shine in the night. Speaking of which, there's a story about the infirmary too. Right, I just remembered the curse of the dancing Western doll. An out-of-place Western doll was set on top of the medicine shelves in the infirmary. If I remember, they said every night it would start dancing. I wonder if I'll hear some strange sounds or something from that pitch-black infirmary. Ozaki thought as he quickly passed the infirmary and dashed up the stairs. Once he started running, there was no stopping him. He held his breath and like a bolt of lightning shot off until he reached the classroom. Flying into the classroom, he flipped the light switch. The fluorescent lamps, making the dry buzzing sounds, flickered with blinding light. Right. Big rows of fluorescent lights. We can see, at long last. In the brilliantly illuminated classroom, even though no one was there, to his amazement, it was the same classroom he knew well. As for demons ready to devour a foolish child who mistook their day for night and attended their school, well, there wasn't anything like that lying in wait for him. Ozaki started to calm down when he saw such a normal sight. Since he had come from the school entrance to the classroom, he finally realized how much he was sweating and how erratic his breathing had become. Way to lose your cool, Ozaki. The hell are you so afraid of? By provoking and shaming his own cowardice, he persuaded himself that wasn't who he was. Calming himself, he remembered he had to find his key and get back home. He'd probably get yelled at by a teacher if he was found in class at a time like this. It was stupid of him to lose his key, and not only that, he came to class at this time of night. Worse yet, if he were to get caught and scolded for it, it would be too shameful and he wouldn't be able to stand it. Gradually, he started to feel himself return to his daylight self, and he began looking for his key. But he couldn't find it. In and around his desk, he even checked in other desks, but he couldn't find it. His parents would probably be home soon, and they probably wouldn't leave him outside forever. However, if he lost his key, his parents would be upset with him. His parents would always come back wearing exhaustion on their faces, and aside from asking, "Did you finish your homework?" and "Are you ready for tomorrow?" they'd say nothing else. We don't talk much. I don't even remember the last time we had a real conversation. Even so, after not having talked to them in so long, talking about something like losing the house key, Mom would immediately start shouting and crying. Dad would see that and immediately start beating me. Ah, this sucks. Seriously, where'd you go, Key? The standard person gets beaten, so they bully other people. Well, it could have been I'm an asshole, but we can go with this too. That works. That works. Give the bully the standard bully backstory. All right. The fear Ozaki had from being at school in night turns to impatience, and when the key refused to show itself, it finally changed to anger. However, regardless of his emotions, without any emotion, his key still couldn't be found anywhere. I guess I'll honestly ask if anyone's left any lost articles over at the staff room. If I still can't find it, it might be all over. Wouldn't the staff room at night be closed? No one's actually there? I guess you're asking in the morning. Let's assume that. Ozaki thought, yeah, it might be over. All over. Slowly leaving the classroom. In his eyes, he saw a light coming from the boys' restroom. The bathroom. I've been in there so many times today. Don't tell me, did I drop my key in the bathroom? If he dropped his key in the bathroom, no one would have picked it up. If they put their hands on a key like that, they'd get germs and everyone would make fun of them saying, "Get away from me," or something. Because of that, even if someone drops their keys, everyone will look and then pretend they didn't see it. So it's possible it's still there on the floor even now. If no one picked it up, it wouldn't be in the lost and found. I'll give it a shot. He didn't normally have the habit of talking to himself. However, in this school of darkness, if he didn't at least talk to himself, the silence would become far too chilling. Slowly, he peeked into the boys' restroom. On the floor, there was no silver color indicating his key was there. Even though he thought it impossible, he still looked in each of the urinals. If it was in some place like that, it would be the worst. My precious key would have been soaking in the urinals all day. It would reek of piss, and no matter how much I wash it, there's no way I could get the smell out. If I walked around with that foul key, there's no telling how many jeers I'd get from tomorrow onwards. Well, I mean, there are ways to clean metal. A thoroughly clean metal, generally by removing a layer off it, but, you know, it's probably out of his reach. That would be the worst. If it was in one of these, it would be the absolute worst. I don't want to find it here. So after checking all the urinals and confirming none of them had his key in them, Ozaki felt a slight relief. But suddenly, he was laughed at. He was laughed at. Directly behind him, some monster was laughing with a... Like, at his relief, Ozaki choked and stood frozen. His eyes opened wide, and from all the pores on his skin, a foul-smelling sweat started gushing out. Seeing his figure from behind as he did, once again the monster laughed. This time he understood. It wasn't a laugh. It was a door. Behind him, a large bathroom stall door made an unpleasant screeching sound. Don't fuck with me. You can't scare me, he said strongly, but his words were shaking. All it did was remind him once again how scared he was. Even so, that moment of pleasure when the power of all his fears drained away was indescribably comforting. While bathing in the comfort, Ozaki's eyes locked onto a silver gleam. It was the key. There was no mistake. It was the key he had been searching for. Inside the stall by itself, it had seemed almost as if it was hidden there by a demon in a game of hide and seek, and so there it laid. He had no memory of going in here. Why was his key in a place like this? Perhaps someone saw it, said, "Ew, disgusting," and then kicked it into the stall. It's a plausible guess. He's lucky at least no one knew that dirty key belonged to him. He thought to immediately pick it up and head home. Give it a good scrubbing in some water. Thoroughly, but in any case, he's glad he found it. At that moment, he was glad he came back all the way to school. And that second, the world turned pitch black. It seemed as if even time itself had stopped. And as he leaned with his arm extended to pick up the key, for some time he was stopped as if frozen in time. Gradually, feeling the beating of his own heart, he realized time hadn't stopped. Someone had turned it off. Suddenly, something had turned off the lights. Perhaps a teacher on patrol saw it and turned it off? No, he didn't sense anything like that. He didn't even hear the sound of footsteps. But how did the lights go out like that? Rather, from the beginning until he arrived at the classroom after climbing the stairs, the hallways, everything, anything was complete darkness. He took relief from turning on the lights after reaching the classroom in that darkness. In other words, until he got into the classroom, there was no light or anything of the sort.
Why, after leaving the classroom and heading to the boys' bathroom, was there a light on? If the light's on, someone should have been using the restroom, but there wasn't anyone in here, and he didn't sense someone who forgot to turn off the light. In this school, ruled by the silent darkness of the night, echoes of footsteps would echo sharply. Even in the short time he was in the classroom, he should have heard those sounds reach him. That means, with no sign of anyone, the lights had suddenly turned on. And with no sign of anyone, suddenly the boys' restroom lights had been turned off. Back off. Stop it. Stop joking, Ozaki wanted to say, but with his lips quivering, he couldn't even say those words. His heart continued trembling with its throbs, almost like it was going to burst out of his chest. His heart beat faster and faster. With a dry buzzing sound, a blinking beam shined on him slightly. Only a single fluorescent ceiling lamp in the boys' bathroom gave off its dim light. But it continued blinking ominously, and just when he'd think it was lit, it would go off, and with a dry sound, it would light back on again. Rather than relaxing with the lighting, the repetition stirred unease at what lay beyond. That fluorescent light was outside the stall. Because for Ozaki, who was shut up in the bathroom stall like this, he was made to realize he was distinctly shut up inside 4 corners of darkness. But when did the stall door close? I found the key, went inside. Suddenly things went dark. Where's the key? I panicked and turned around, and the key wasn't there. Sure, it's dark and hard to see, but the key is gone from where I saw it just now. Maybe what I thought I saw for a second was an optical illusion? Could something that stupid even happen? More importantly, where am I? There was no mistake, this was the inside of a bathroom stall, but it's different. This place isn't the stall I just went in. It's not the same bathroom stall at all. The urinal, the toilet paper dispenser, the colors of the walls were dirty, the fixtures, the angles. Where am I? At that moment, his ears sensed something for the first time. A sigh that couldn't be a sound. Sound so small it shouldn't reach his ears. The sound of chafing clothing. Now he clearly heard that sound that was so slight it couldn't even be called a sound. The object of that sensation, strangely enough, it was there. Right there. It was right there, but he couldn't see it. Because it was shut out behind that single door. He and the presence that had suddenly appeared were facing one another with a single thin door between them. It's my imagination. I'll just get out of here, he thought. And then the moment he moved to put his hand on the door, this time he heard a real sigh and his entire body stiffened with a start. Even stranger, the presence. On the other side of the door was sobbing and crying. With a meso meso. I'm like listening to this track, and you can kind of hear whispering on the wind. That's really interesting. I'm like trying to catch it, but you can't quite make out the meso meso. It's like really hard to make out. Who? Why did you just come here to cry? There are other stalls in the bathroom, right? Why are you crying in front of my stall? Go away and stop crying. Who are you? Damn it. Meso. Without a doubt, those were the cries of a girl. It wasn't male. The cries are feminine. Even though this is supposed to be the boys' bathroom, the crying of Meso began freezing the blood in his legs one by one. From his legs, he felt rows of ice stand up on his skin, and by the time they reached his head, it made him remember what he didn't want to remember. Meso. You there, please listen to my pitiful story. It's a lie. A lie. The story of Meso's side, it's a lie, right? It's all a lie? A lie? The inside of his throat swelled up and a suffocating sensation welled up inside him. The inside of his head began to whirl in circles. It seemed like his eyes were going to roll back in his head. What a joke this is. A joke. They're laughing. I'm panicking. They're laughing. This is bad. This is so bad. Meso. You there. Please listen to my pitiful story. The girl's sad voice repeated once again, this time clearly. steadily. It wasn't ambiguous like something that could only be heard inside his head. It mingled with his heart's palpitations and the dry, flickering sound of the blinking fluorescent light. It was a voice he felt distinctly and directly in his eardrums. Ozaki was about to let loose a groan in reply to that voice. But just before he did, he remembered and firmly swallows it and holds off. The newly born eighth mystery, Mesa Mesa-san. The tale of a yokai who appears in the old school bathrooms. Gotta be shitting me. This place can't be the old school building, right? There's no way it'd show up here. He didn't let that scream escape his mouth. Rather, like a goldfish searching for air in agony, he could only continue to open and close his mouth with a flap, flap. It seemed like Mesa Mesa-san was the vengeful spirit of a girl slain in the old school bathrooms. It appears when people come into the bathroom it was killed in, and it seems to ask people to hear about the time it was killed. There are rules. When Mesa Mesa-san says please listen to its pitiful story, I mustn't respond. I can't try seeing what it looks like. Until Mesa Mesa-san leaves, without speaking a word, I have to grin and bear. I have to grit and bear it. If I break those rules, I'll be killed. The only thing weak about it is its voice. Its true form is monstrous. It'll embrace me with its tremendous rotten tree trunk-like arms, crush every bone in my body, killing me. Ozaki covers both his ear and mouth with his hands. Already unable to control it with his own willpower, his right hand covers his mouth to stifle his scream. And with his left hand, he covers his left ear as if to stop Mesa Mesa-san's cries from entering. And then his right ear was open. Even so, he covered it by sticking his ear up against the inside wall. Despite that, he couldn't deny her voice from permeating his ears. Ozaki-kun. My name? Mesa Mesa clearly called me by name. It knows who I am. You can see me. It knows I'm here. Why do you pick on girls, Ozaki-kun? What do you mean pick on? What are you talking about? Yukari Sakaki-chan. You've been bullying her for a long time, haven't you? How does it know about that? My punishment. This is my punishment. I should have just left alone with a practical joke. The bullying. Did you stop it already? Without thinking, Ozaki blurted out something that seemed like an answer. Panicked at that, he swallowed. With the voice he seemingly blurted out, the light from the only fluorescent lamp, breaking with a pop, went out entirely. What? What is it this time? As if it were grating or perhaps warping, a small sound began spreading throughout the entire bathroom. It was the grating sound of doors, windows, fixtures, tiles, faucets, and mirrors. It was quiet and overpowering. I was in the darkness where I couldn't even see my own fingertips, but on the other side of this single door, if I didn't have this door, that overpowering creature would surely be in grabbing distance, directly in front of my face. This quiet, though chilling and frightening sound it's making, it's overpowering. Even in this darkness, he understood what was happening. He couldn't see anything, or rather, on the contrary, he understood. Even though it was only ever so slightly, he had answered Mesa Mesa's question. Mesa Mesa-san, the girl, he could tell, was changing into something fearsome, terrifying, and grotesque. Even though all he had was a strange noise and her presence to go on, in that darkness he could clearly tell what was happening. The evidence, well, it was no longer a frail voice. If you bully again, there won't be a next time. While spurting out tears, drool, and snot, despite everything he held back a scream. While holding his mouth and ears shut, Ozaki shook his head over and over. While all these incomprehensible fluids dripped and leaked, he shook and bowed his head over and over. In the stall of the old school building's lavatory, in that darkness, both of Ozaki's eyes were open, and while covering his ears and mouth, he bowed his head indefinitely, with sweat and tears, the snot and drool plopping and dribbling as if striking his head against a wall. He'd continue nodding his head for all eternity. Noticing the old school building's entryway was open, a patrolling teacher took a look around just in case, only to find him in that state. Why would he go to a place like that? At that time? In the darkness? All alone? The teacher wasn't able to find an answer. He was satisfied with that question. In the first place, he couldn't even satisfactorily explain why he would come back to school after school was over. After all, the Kowski he kept repeating was gone, was right in his pocket the whole time. Teacher also knew the story of Mesa Mesa-san. If other students heard about this, they'd spread rumors, and the uproar would surely get out of hand. If this awful clamor reached the vice principal's ears, it'd become a troublesome fuss about who was responsible for it. And that's why the teacher let Ozaki go without asking any questions. I don't know what you saw there tonight, but you must absolutely make sure you never reveal it, he instructed. Ozaki staggered, and with a gait like he still might fall over now, he crossed the schoolyard and exited the school grounds. Staring intently at his back were non-human eyes. Higanbana-san, how long have you been there? Oh, the whole time, since the very start of your hunt. Higanbana giggled as she sat on top of the roof's fence, letting that long, beautiful, cold hair flow. Marie stared. She was seeing off Ozaki's retreating figure through the school gates just over the fence. It'd be nice if he'd stop bullying Yukari-chan, but it's fine. After all, the school's 8th-ranking yokai Mesa Mesa-san bit half of its soul off as a warning. As you can see, it looks like he'll stop. Starting tomorrow, I doubt that willpower to bully anyone will ever return to him. I only gave him a warning to say I bit off his soul. After you bit and latched on so far, you left teeth marks of that extent? Maria's hunting has such grace. It's considerably lovely, although a bit boring to me. Maria still didn't quite understand what it was the yokai referred to as a hunt. However, with all this, all she could do was hope that Yukari's bullying would lessen, if even by a little bit. Nevertheless, Higanbana was still keeping her eye on Yukari. Marie calmed down just a bit. As though she'd read her thoughts long ago, Higanbana giggled and then nimbly jumped off the fence. She really is a delicious-looking girl, that Yukari, the cocky girl. Higanbana-san. What? Would you please stop hunting, Yukari-chan? You want I, the dancing Higanbana, to turn over my prey? Higanbana spoke without turning around. Marie did not turn around either, and started speaking from in front of the fence. It's not that I'm ordering you to hand it over. You're asking me as a friend? No, that's not quite right. Well, what do you mean? Yukari, she isn't quite the right prey for you. Oh? Higanbana slowly turned around. Her expression was inhuman, merciless like a frigid doll. The eyes were more frosty and sharp than an icicle. They weren't the eyes of something alive. Buried into her sockets were the eyes of a doll. A strong gust blew by and rustled her long hair, intensifying the ominous expression even more. Then those lips parted in a perfect arc, like a smiling crescent moon only just appearing. How lovely, Marie. You're not only just my friend, you've also managed to become a nuisance. Oh, I don't want to be a nuisance. I'm only saying Yukari is not as suitable as prey for you. After all, didn't you say you prefer to prey upon fragile souls who seem like they chose their own death? And you're saying she isn't? Yes. Yukari-chan is truly a strong girl. She managed to recover even from the sadness of losing her mother. Where she's being bullied and her heart seems to be crushed, but it's only for now. She'll definitely take back her joy and stand strong again. Well, I'll have to whisper of death to her and prepare it like a delicacy before she stands strong again. Oh, I won't let you do that. I, Mesa Marie, will protect the girl. Higanbana, who had always laughed so elegantly, finally couldn't withstand it and howled with laughter. Can you protect her? Is there any way? Yes. If Ozaki-kun stopped bullying her, I believe his friends will do the same. Marie, you're truly entertaining. Well, I'll let you show me for a while. Show me what Mesa Marie is capable of. With a turn, her skirt billowing in the wind, Higanbana disappears. Ozaki was already far into the dark of the night, or rather, disappeared into the light outside the school. Marie was alone in the darkness of the school at night, and she was praying Yukari's fate tomorrow would be changed, even if a little bit, for the better. However, she would understand the next day what Higanbana was laughing about. Ozaki changed into an absent-minded child, and he didn't bully Yukari again. However, the other bullies, they hadn't changed at all. Dang, no happily ever after, no the end. We're going right into the realities of everyone in class is an asshole, and toppling one bully doesn't eliminate the other 10. Yeah, Ozaki is not feeling so hot, so let's leave him alone. So today, let's just play around with Sakaki ourselves. So in the end, the bullying Yukari experienced didn't change at all. I had wanted to believe that by removing Ozaki, I could save Yukari, but there's no way that could save her. When Ozaki's violence stopped today, that only benefited the other bullies. So in the end, what Marie had done was like putting a band-aid on a cancer patient. Or like, as if the night before had never happened. Lunch break. Ozaki, as if he'd lost his spirit, rested his head on the desk. Across from him, excited from having written graffiti on Yukari's desk, was the usual group of bullies. Ozaki kept his promise to Meso Meso-san. Just as he promised in the old school building bathroom, he no longer bullied Yukari Sakaki. That being said, he didn't say he'd stop everyone else from bullying her. Since she hadn't remembered to press him on that, Marie felt a bit guilty, but even if Ozaki had said that, the bullying against Yukari probably wouldn't end that easily. That's probably wishful thinking. Yukari Sakaki's abuse is amusing to all of them. It wasn't as if Ozaki was happy his followers were following in his footsteps. Ozaki was the only one not included in the fun in that classroom atmosphere. He watched as she was bullied. It was as if nothing had changed. Now that I think about it, bullying has always been like that. People don't simply become bullies. Their environment is where they're made. Taking away one bully in that environment doesn't solve the problem. If I think back, even the abuse I received when I was human was like that too. With just the death of Kanamori-sensei, I thought I'd be saved. Even if he were gone as before, I'd still have been bullied by the boys in class. The naive thought that becoming a yokai and getting my revenge on my teacher would be my salvation was something I now understood all the clearer. Higanbana-san probably knew that. She probably knew exactly how bullying worked. That's why the fact I believed that by warning just one would solve everything was no doubt comical to her. Of course, I couldn't see her, she's probably in the shadows somewhere watching me overcome with surprise like this and giggling. Before long, after finishing their scribbling on Yukari's seat, the ring of bullies dispersed. Their number for the time being was just 4 people. I wonder if I should call each of those 4 people one after the other to the school at night. Grant them a warning as Meso Meso in the same way I did to Ozaki. I mean, I don't know if that expends yokai power and you're slowly killing yourself. But if the first warning doesn't work, maybe you just take sterner action against the next one. You're a yokai. Murder's okay. Murder for insignificant things is fine because you're killing people for food anyway. But as Marie says, it's probably pointless. Those 4 might withdraw from their positions, even if you kill them. But even if they do, other bullies would rise up and take over their roles. Besides, offering a warning as Meso Meso-san to 4 more humans after Ozaki, no easy feat. This was in accordance to Maria's circumstances as a yokai. Yokai like Marie and Higanbana don't have an inexhaustible supply of power. Essentially, when yokai place their forms in the other world, they have to exhaust that power when intervening with that world's affairs. Higanbana said this is Yoryoku. Yoryoku. Representing a yokai's power, Yoryoku, means exactly as its characters are written. Okay. It's Yoryoku, but yeah. Not Yoryoku, it's Yoryoku. Because RYO is... Ryoku is the second character, right? Yoryoku. If one is a strong yokai like Higanbana, it's natural you would have a large amount of Yoryoku. A meager yokai like Marie naturally has a small amount. Interfering with humans requires a great deal of it. And in addition, it changes with how big the degree of interference is. If it's only a small thing like making someone listen to your whisper in a daydream, that takes only a little bit. If you're thinking of showing yourself and making someone see your fearsome power, it requires a large amount of Yoryoku. Yoryoku. Birds. When Marie appeared before Ozaki in order to give him a warning, she spent most of what little she had to do it. There are many ways to regain that energy, such as entrusting one's body to the waxing and waning of the moon, or hunting and feasting on the soul of a human. In the case of Marie, who refuses to hunt, the only way to replenish it is to give it time. If she gave a warning to each of the 4 bullies, she probably wouldn't even be able to show herself again. And she already knew that warning the 4 bullies alone wouldn't save her. Maria hung her head while biting her lower lip. Her powerlessness was mortifying, but that wasn't going to save anyone. Even so, she's a yokai. I am the one who can save her. I absolutely have to save her. I have to. But how? I don't know. I don't know, but I can't give up. If I give up, who will save Yukari-chan? Yukari went back to her classroom. She noticed the scribbling on her desk, and for a moment her expression dimmed, but then she behaved like she hadn't noticed anything and took her seat. The bullies, in reaction to her non-reaction, were grinning and clicking their tongues, but I knew how many tears she was swallowing underneath that blank expression of hers. After amusing themselves, the bullies eventually left the classroom, and I followed after them. I can't just stand by and watch the Yukari suffer like this, but even as I watched over her, all I could do was sympathize. If I'm to protect her from the formless concept known as bullying, I've got to get a better understanding about it. So I took interest in the bullies. By observing them, I might be able to learn something. From that day on, their shadows were thickened and slightly clad with a chill. Maria understood this was what it meant to stalk, to haunt. Rarely, students with strong supernatural senses would occasionally feel a slight unease about them. But no one saw Marie, and so she continued her investigation of the Yukari's bullying from over the shoulders of the bullies themselves. How are you doing, Marie? Well? Have you found a way to save her? Higanbana? Everyone's spreading rumors about Mesa Mesa-san stalking some pathetic victims looking for her next prey. Although I'm interfering with your hunt, I figured I'd make sure you're doing it right. I just came to tease you. Higanbana had known from the start. She knew just warning the leader of them wouldn't stop their tormenting. Moreover, she thought that Marie would despair. She'd patiently wait for the other bullies to come along and surround her. It was Marie who had the despairing experience of being tormented in life, who died and once again faced against the problem of bullying, and now and how she would stand up against this task. That was what Higanbana was interested in. You know what people often say, right? The bullied usually deserve it. I don't think that applies to Yukari-chan. Is that a fact? Yes. After all, she's doing her best to keep from being bullied. Yukari is trying her hardest in order to not entertain them. She's stuck to ignoring everything they do. And once it's pointed out to her that her clothes are smelly and dirty, she realized why they started bullying her, and she pays special attention to her hygiene now. She thought just by bringing an end to that, there'd be no more reason to bully her. However, she already had the label of a bullied girl, and it stuck to her. Thus, even though there is no connection to her present self, her torture persists. It's not like you said. Yukari doesn't deserve it at all, Higanbana-san. Oh, then what do you think? I think the problem is on the bully side. So something like, if you don't sympathize with them, you won't understand their pain? Over all these many decades since the beginning, I've heard that countless times. Oh, it's not like that. In a completely genuine meaning, I think there's something wrong with these boys. Oh? Please have a look. Over at that classroom. Could it be? Yukari Sakaki is being surrounded by all these bullies like always? No. Yukari stayed home today. She caught a cold today, so she's absent. The cold is prevalent in the class. So taking an absence isn't unexpected, rather, it's practical, but this is neither above nor below the norm. Was Higanbana supposed to see something in the classroom with its favorite tormentee, Yukari Sakaki, missing? She looked to where Marie was pointing with intrigue. Flap. Flap, flap. By the curtains, they were relentlessly, violently kicking. They were all gathered in one corner and kept kicking without uttering a word. It wasn't an uncommon sight to see the boys playfully beating on something in place of a punching bag. What they were expressing wasn't playful hate, frustration, anger. Wordlessly turning those emotions into violence, they struck the curtains. This sucks. Lame. Normally they'd be teasing Yukari and playing pranks on her at her desk, but today she's absent, so they couldn't do that. They were grumbling out loud. It was as if they were grumbling because Yukari Sakaki went ahead and took the day off without asking them for permission first. Ugh, this pisses me off. My head's gonna explode if I don't get a pound that Sakaki. Phrasing! Phrasing! That girl, what, she caught a cold? Seriously? Bullshit. When she's not here, it's so annoying. It's like the most annoying thing ever. They said something like she had to go to the hospital and might not come anymore. It's like, she should hurry up and come back so we can mess with her, you know? We're gonna freaking die of boredom. Fuck Sakaki. Stupid Sakaki. You stink. Just disappear. Fuck. While saying to just disappear, the lamenting boys pouted inconsistently that Sakaki wasn't there. They took turns kicking the bunched curtains in their frustration over and over again. It's almost as if bullying is their drug and they're all addicts. Yes, I can see that too. It's an act of establishing hierarchy in a group-oriented society, and so if you're not constantly doing it, you'll become uncertain about your own ranking, and so people can't stop bullying. Furthermore, aside from being creatures that run society, humans can't escape their instinct to bully. Higanbana explained her theory, but Marie didn't think that was the case. It wasn't that she naively thought humans were different from animals, it was because of a pure unease she felt. They made bullying Yukari a habit, and she's their best way of having fun, so on days when Yukari isn't there, they should have settled for the next best thing, but they didn't. While other boys did things like running around and playing with each other, all they did was hang around the curtains, angrily kicking lumps in the folds out of frustration. Fluff. Seemingly out of frustration, they kept kicking. It wasn't because it was fun, it was as if they couldn't find any other fun except in bullying. And Marie saw that. After all, bullying's fun. When you become a slave to that entertainment, it's not strange to become addicted, wouldn't you say? I think it's odd. For some argument's sake, even if bullying's fun, this is only a one-time incident. For them to get this upset over being unable to bully her for one day, just because she's taking one day off, I think it's strange. It's just one day. For them to be this upset because they can't bully a girl, it's odd. If you think it's odd, Marie, perhaps it's proper to say it is. It doesn't particularly matter to me. Perhaps I should hurry corner Yukari and tempt her to end her own life. I'll carefully boil her and mixed in with that secret sauce you've been given her, Marie. She'll be a wonderful bullied soul. That'll definitely have a good taste, no? Leaving a trail of laughter, Higanbana dissolves into the shadows, but Marie wouldn't let it come to that. Because Marie couldn't see their bullying as playful, or by no means a laughing matter. Like Higanbana explained, she could see that they were addicts for the drug that was bullying. Does bullying really have the mystical, ominous power to make people slaves like that? I mean, I want to believe that's not it. I'm with Marie, I want to believe that's not it, but... And people are addicted to the feeling of power over someone else. Maybe you just need to give her a couple days and then they'll pick someone else? Or maybe that's Marie was predicting and is confused why that didn't happen. Higanbana-san sneered, saying humans are like animals and unable to escape from it. But I want to believe. There's no way humans by nature wickedly take pleasure in seeing the suffering of others' faces. It depends on the person. Then why? Why do they keep bullying her every day? Why on days like today when she's not here does it bother them? There has to be something. A reason why they're this addicted to bullying. As long as it's not explained, perhaps Yukari can't be saved. Marie was certain of that. Wait, Sasaki-kun, how you doing? Kinda down for a while. Yeah, it's a cold, just cold. Even Ozaki, who'd been threatened by Marie and lost his spirits for a while, had recently started regaining his former composure bit by bit. He might even return to normal before the end of the week. It was a terrifying experience that was hard to forget, but he hadn't been menaced to the point of becoming an invalid. It was still an event he didn't want to remember, but even if he told anyone, it wasn't as if anyone would be able to understand him. And he didn't want to be thought of as a coward. In other words, it shows that all of Marie's efforts that night only had the effect of distancing him from Yukari for a couple days. Even so, this doesn't discourage Marie. In order to save Yukari, she had to understand their abnormal behavior. Marie listened quietly with her ears at attention as she continued standing directly behind them. Sakaki's alright, but last year... Oh yeah, I remember last year. Seriously. I can put up with Sakaki, but man, it's just not as satisfying, you know? Being ignored by Sakaki pisses me off. It makes me want to mess with her even more. Yeah, last year, man. That stupid girl. Why'd she have to go and die in an accident? You'd heard the story before. A story seemingly about how they were bullying someone last year. A story about how somehow that girl ended up dying in an accident. You know, there's nobody like her. When we messed with her, we had all sorts of fun. And if we could get Sakaki upset a bit more, she might be fun too. Well, she'll probably never replace Misumi. Yeah. Watching her react was tons of fun. True. But with every action, there's a reaction. Yeah, the same should be for bullied kids. Kaki's gonna need a lot more discipline to reach Misumi's level. Disciplining her? Ooh, that'll be fun. Exactly. After all, Masumi just kept getting better and better, didn't she? Absolutely. With Masumi, it wasn't quite messing around. How do I say it? It felt like we were playing together. Yeah. No offense to Masumi, but maybe she was enjoying it too? Or at least that's what I thought. Yeah, that's not bullying. I mean, Masumi was having a good time, right? Really enjoyed it when we teased her. She really did. Gloomy old bitch would have died of loneliness if we hadn't played with her, right? You bet. She was totally thrilled we played with her. Like hell she was. Nobody would be happy drinking mop water soup. Ah, the delicious flavor of mop water. Hey, speaking of, we never got any sort of thanks from Sakaki for playing with her, did we? Oh, we sure haven't. She totally looks like it's just a pain to do it, too. If we hadn't played with her, nobody would want anything to do with such a smelly and disgusting girl like her anyway. Right, she hasn't thanked us enough. We gotta make her remember to do it now. Starting tomorrow, we'll teach her a lesson so she really gets it. Yep, gotta teach her a lesson. And just like that, they thought Yukari had to be grateful to them for bullying her? Their words were so callous, Marie wanted to cover her ears. For a little while, the boys were laughing in high spirits, but sooner or later they grew tired of conversation and once again appeared as displeased as ever. Until Yukari comes back to school tomorrow, and they can bully her once more, their sour moods unlikely to change. Marie separated herself from the boys for a moment and reorganized her thoughts. First of all, there was the talk of the girl who they apparently bullied last year. This student was bullied terribly and then died in an accident. But what intrigued Marie was that it seemed all of them participated in the bullying last year. Normally, it's something that happens inside the same class. She'd never heard of kids from other classes specifically going out to bully someone. Maybe everyone in the group of bullies, were in the same class last year. Students at this school change classes with each new grade level. Since a single grade level has such a vast number of classes, it's not unusual for to know hardly anyone in a new class. Because of that, it's not unusual for groups of students who had the same classes before to create groups. The kids who used to be in class 6, they're kinda rough. They're always picking on Sakaki-chan. I even feel bad for Sakaki-chan. Seeing the displeased-looking boys, the girls could be heard whispering. Marie grew closer to the girls and listened carefully over their shoulders. Hey, did you know? A long time ago, there was a big ruckus in a neighboring class. Oh yeah, but that bullied girl? Didn't someone tell her to go jump and kill herself and then she went over the railing? Crazy. Well, everyone used to be from class 6, even the bullied girls. Yeah, I think I heard about that. A rumor that lots of bullies used to be in class 6. Didn't Sensei say it too? Something like, are the former class 6 kids causing nothing but trouble? Oh man. Why? Maybe it's because class 6 has nothing but bad kids in it? Do you remember? The story about the girl who fell off the roof and died being from class 6? It had to be talking about the girl named Misumi. They say her death was accidental, but it seems the bullied kids had to believe it was suicide, because it seems they were bullied to do so. And certainly hearing about an accident from falling off the roof, that was strange. The roof wasn't even a part of classes. Students were prohibited access. Even if someone went on the roof for a time, it was surrounded by a fence that couldn't be described as short. From there, for a careless accident to happen like falling off the roof, it's hard to imagine. Weren't you literally just there, Marie? I'm surprised a year passed before you noticed this. Marie remembered the girl who threw herself off the roof, having been tempted to kill herself by Higanbana, and not listening despite being warned that if she didn't stop these thoughts, it would risk her life. The girl also climbed up the fence of her own free will and jumped. Maybe it was like last semester or something? We don't know how much time passed. There's no possible way anyone could go over the fence through some careless, thoughtless mistake, which means, just as she thought, Misumi, the former class 6 victim, killed herself. Even though the roof was supposed to be off limits? There's no way she fell by accident. Yeah, it's totally impossible. You know, they say she killed herself because the bullying was so cruel, but that's totally a rumor. I think the school covered it up by calling it an accident. You know the dead girl? I heard she was bullied by everyone in the class. Everyone? Yep. Every last one of them. Bullied by the entire class? Marie doubted her own ears, and of course the girls she was overhearing doubted it too. Usually when talking about bullying, it's just a couple of people, and then the majority of class would be onlookers, or possibly even cheered on, but that wouldn't count as bullying. So the entire class actively bullying that girl? Yep. I heard all of class 6 bullied her. Seriously, most of the time it was a situation where they'd all gang up on her and beat the crap out of her. But looking at Ozaki-kun and the others, you get a feel for it. Like that former Class 6 seriously love to bully people. Even now, they can't bully Sakaki-chan, and they're taking out their frustrations by kicking the curtains, aren't they? I wonder if bullying is actually all that fun. Well, they're always saying that, aren't they? Last year's girl was the best, the most incredible fun they've ever had. They're never going to be satisfied with just Sakaki. Seriously? Bullying because of that? Oh, how mean. Hearing up to that point, Marie separated herself from the girls. It's painful for a yokai to face the sunlight. Entering the shadows, she once again tried piecing the puzzle together based on what she heard. Last year, something happened in Class 6. The children who became bullies in Class 6 were rumored to be scattered amongst all the other classes. To comprehend their persistent bullying of Yukari, she had the feeling she'd have to understand what happened in Class 6 last year. Are they really just ordinary bullies? Higanbana and the other classmates seemed to think that. However, Marie couldn't accept that as the truth, and she became more determined to investigate further. She couldn't figure out a method to rescue Yukari now, but she planned to do whatever it took. So they bullied someone to the point of killing themselves, except that they caused someone to cause their death, and we're like, man, we need to bully someone harder. Luckily for them, Marie does not consider them as having actually murdered her, as she thinks Higanbana is at fault. From that day, Marie wouldn't come to the classroom again. Just while Marie investigates, Yukari will need to withstand the bullying, and Marie could only pray that Yukari does not lend ear to Higanbana or the temptations of other yokai. However, in a way that neither Marie nor Yukari could have imagined, Yukari's bullying was going to meet a sudden end. In a way that Yukari couldn't imagine. After recovering from yesterday's cold, I once again returned to school. They found someone who's more interesting? Or did someone get murdered? In the past, I hated coming back the day after being absent from school. I'd be afraid that in one day I was gone, everything would completely change, and I'd be the only one left out. I should feel lucky that didn't happen this time. Actually, perhaps I should say unlucky. In that one day I was gone, nothing happened or changed. Today is the same as any other school day. The bullies followed me around, my exhausting torment would continue. And since I came back to school today, they'd be able to jeer openly with things like, "You reek," and "Get away from me." Even though there's no possible way I could be smelly now. Regardless, they would pinch their noses, acting like some sort of terrible stench was coming from me, and mock me. I mustn't react. If I react, they'll have even more fun. So for them, if I don't give them any reaction, they shouldn't be able to find anything fun about it. They bully me because I'm human. If I don't speak and don't react like a stone Jizo statue, they'd have no reason to bully me. Maybe someone reports them for actually bullying someone until they kill themselves. That'd be a surprising twist conclusion. I'm a stone. Believing that for today, I set out to endure the long day ahead. She'd never have imagined that all her mornings, not just today, but for every day after that, would be different. Okay. Today I have a new friend to introduce to all of you. Alright, come on in. The morning homeroom stirred with the sound at the sudden announcement the teacher gave. A transfer student. This town had large factories and companies. Depending on parental circumstances and the like, without any regard for the season, people transferring in were frequent occurrences. If this were like any other school, it would be rare to have a transfer student come at this point in the semester, but here it's hardly unusual. Even so, the event of introducing a transfer student was a rare thing. The class was murmuring in an out-of-place way. I'm Reiko Osumi. It's a pleasure to meet you. Okay. Is it Usumi? Either she's not very good at public speaking or she's too nervous. It was a self-introduction made with a voice that seemed it would vanish. Is that Osumi, like, big house? I think it's like big house, and then like the Raiko is obviously the last two parts. I think it's dwelling. That's close to dwelling, right? Or like where you live? Huh. Interesting. She was fair-skinned, a girl like a doll. Perhaps it'd be better to say she gave the impression of being a very frail girl. It seemed like she was trying hard to show us she was energetic, but it instead came off as pitiful, and that solidified as my impression of her. Since we now have a transfer student, we'll be changing seats. If you can't see well from where you were designated, please let me know. A drawing specifically created for changing seats, made so that the change will be completely random. My seat is now 2 seats from the front of the same row as my original. Sitting in front of me is the new transfer student. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you too. I'm Sakaki. If there's anything you need help with, you can ask me anything. There's a lot I don't understand. To tell the truth, I still don't even know how the road to get to school all that well. Well, do you know how to get home today? Truth is, I'm not sure. She was probably giving it her best to poke fun at herself or something, but she just didn't have any energy in it, so it was just pathetic. It's likely she naturally doesn't have an energetic disposition, but because of that, she must have had it rough at her old school. After having the opportunity to change schools, she must be working hard to change herself. I could tell just through from our exchange. However, I also understood there's one very important thing. She wasn't a bad person who would bully me. Maybe she was thinking the same thing. We became fast friends. I was truly looking forward to walking home with a friend for the first time in a long time. Oh, you're on the 4th block. We're pretty close together, aren't we? Thank you very much. If I were alone, I thought I wouldn't make it home. Reiko Osumi-san, right? Can I call you Reiko-chan? Yes. You don't have to be so nervous. I mean, it's not like I'll bully you or anything. Well, actually, I've been bullied myself. Me too. I've also been bullied. What? You were? Even saying that, I already thought as much. I'd sensed it the whole time, something that only fellow bullied students could understand, something like a wavelength. Reiko told me she was also horribly bullied at her former school, and I told her I'd always been bullied by my classmates being called stinky and dirty. I also opened my heart. So you were too? Yeah. We've both been through a lot, haven't we? How sad. That's just awful. I wonder why there's hazing at this school too. Guess it can't be helped. What can't be helped? Well, just to live, humans have to kill animals and tear plants out to make their meals, right? If they don't kill animals, plants, or anything at all, people can't live. So you're saying bullying is something that can't be helped in order for people to live? I think so. Maybe this thing called bullying provides some kind of nourishment? Nourishment? After saying something so ridiculous, Reiko had a smile on, but it had a hint of loneliness. Humans are creatures that are always insecure with themselves. They're creatures that are uneasy about whether they're inferior to someone or something. Okay. Interesting argument. When you start feeling that... So, her argument's like, people are insecure and thus require... Oh, that's not bad. Require bullying in order to feel secure about themselves. People are inherently insecure, need to bully someone else to feel secure about themselves. Okay, sure. Going into classic... That's a classic theory, right? That bullies are bullying people because they're insecure about themselves? Okay, that works. When you start feeling that, if there's someone lesser than you nearby, then they actually make you feel like you're not inferior. Maybe it appeases and calms their heart. I believe this is supplying the heart's nutrition. You know, like how goats have to lick rocks to get their salt content? I wonder if there actually is that kind of nutrition. I think there is. I mean, look at us. Aren't we both feeling it? Saying that, Reiko-chan turned around. Her face dyed with the colors of the sunset. The evening sun was bright, and I couldn't see what kind of expression she was making. I'm sorry about earlier. When I heard you were bullied too, it really put me at ease. By any chance, did you feel the same, Sakaki-kun? I wanted to deny it, but it was instantly blocked. It's true that I did feel that way. When I heard Reiko-chan was bullied too, I was relieved. But why? Because I met someone who could comprehend the circumstances? Not quite right. Because I was able to confirm something. That is to say, it's because I could confirm I wasn't all alone at the bottom of the class hierarchy. A while ago, my teacher told me this. You're only watching those at the top. You can't feel anything but endless jealousy. Instead, you should look at the bottom and realize how lucky you are. Since there are people who are less fortunate, you shouldn't say selfish things. I think my father told me that once too. And there you have it. In short, that's the same thing, right? By looking at people lesser than yourself, you can feel better about yourself. Even though I've heard these poetic concepts before, after hearing it from Reiko-chan, they gave me some mixed feelings. I think that we, the bullied, are that bottom to people. By knowing we exist, our classmates can realize how lucky they are. And so we have the role of being nourishment for our classmates' heart. That's what I think. I didn't want to be bullied, but since I was given this role, then by carrying it out, maybe I can be of use to my class. I think that's quite sophisticated. Yeah, that is an interesting way to put it. Thank you for clarifying it. It's not that bullies need self-esteem, it's that people need to know that you're the worst so that they can be grateful they aren't you. I see, and that it's a necessary part of society. Okay, interesting perspective. I don't know if that's right. I don't know if that's right or even follows an actual need. But okay, interesting philosophy, lady. To think that by being bullied, we can be of service to everyone. It doesn't seem like an inherent need. But if that's her perspective, okay. However, she painfully understood the emotions of the girl who couldn't do anything without thinking that way. Reiko-chan surely was bullied even worse at her old school than I am here, and finally, after struggling on, she took on that sad, philosophical mindset. There's no mistaking it. You know, I think I'll be bullied at this school too. But my experience as a victim of bullying has taught me better. Even at this school, she'll surely be bullied. No matter how she keeps up her appearances, or rather because she keeps up that pitiful appearance, she just oozes the presence of a victim. If I'm gonna be bullied again, at that time, I'll be food for all the hearts of my classmates at this school too. That's what I think. Food for the heart. That's right. Food for the heart. I think you've been having plenty of painful memories up till now. But thanks to you, you've filled the hearts of a lot of your classmates. They may not thank anyone, but if you weren't there, they'd never have been able to obtain those precious nutrients for their hearts. Even if nobody thanks you, you're being thanked. By the spirits. Spirits. Yeah. Spirits of the school. Really a novel way of thinking. That's how I'd phrase it. Even just by a little, I was able to feel the reward for all the painful days. I was always saddened by the torment. And only saddened. But to think it was actually being of use to all my classmates' hearts, well, suddenly accepting it like that was difficult, but her words remained in my heart. That's why you need that nutrition for your heart too, Sakaki-san. I don't really... Human too, Sakaki-san. You should wish for these nutrients too. When that time comes, please use me. I'm nutrients for everyone in this class. He laughed in such a sad way. I thought, what a pitiful girl with such a beautiful heart. I wondered what would become of us from here on. My situation most likely will not change. I'll continue being harassed over how stinky I am, and I wonder if Reiko-chan will be able to step forward into a new school and a new life. All I could pray was that our classmates wouldn't recognize that unconcealable, bullyable aura that seeped out from her. For a while, there was no great change in our daily lives. I was bullied as always. Reiko was unable to mesh with how timid she was, and was alone as always. And just when I was thinking about those days continuing forever, something happened. A clash of metal and a shrill scream rang out simultaneously. Are you okay? Reiko-chan? How the hell are you doing, Osumi? How do you think it's screaming like that? Since we're in the same group, we also prepare our school lunch together. Today's menu is curry rice, a popular dish beloved by all, and when Reiko was moving the stock pot of curry to the pushcart, she tripped with it. All the curry inside spilled all over the classroom floor, and she fell on top of it in a miserable state as if trying to cover it. Reiko-chan, can you stand up? How the hell are you doing, Asumi? What are you gonna do about this? I'm sorry. I must have tripped. Don't you fucking tell me. The boys, who are all irritated with hunger, all rained insults down on Reiko-chan at once. Reiko's laugh that she'd occasionally stick onto the end of the sentences apparently aggravated them. She crouched and crawled over the curry that had sprawled over the floor. Still, she kept laughing the same forced laugh. Though she thought it would help her avoid their anger, unfortunately it turned out to be like adding fuel to a fire. Her poor clothes completely stained from top to bottom with curry. It was a truly terrible state. Seeing that pitiful state, the only one with any sympathy for her turned out to be myself. Accidents like this rarely happen during lunch duty. This time, the duties are split up between the different classrooms. However, today was a bad day. Because of that incident during class beforehand, our class's lunch preparations were really late. Even if we went around to the other classes, they'd already finished their lunches and had their tables set. Hardly anyone could help us. The curry we could scrounge up was barely enough for the class. If we were divided up amongst us, each of us wouldn't have more than enough for a whole spoonful. Lunchtime. The room was silent as a midnight vigil over the recently deceased. She couldn't hear a sound save for the clinking of utensils, or in reality, well, she could hear it. The whispers and murmurs. Even though every student in the school was eating curry rice, they were whispering about whose fault it was we were the only ones with the misfortune of having to eat plain white rice. With her clothing sticky and stained yellow with curry and a crushed expression, Reiko-chan ate her white rice to the sounds of clattering silverware. Afternoon break, she was swiftly surrounded by the boys whose anger had not been quelled. It's your fault. Apologize for it. Hell are you fucking around for, bitch? All that could be heard were the shouts of the boys. Reiko's voice couldn't be heard, but based on the exchange, you could piece it together. Turned out her forced was angering them more and more. I wanted to protect her, but there was no way I'd have the strength to push through that crowd of boys. All I could do was wait and stare dazedly until the windstorm of their rage passed. Touch me, you'll leave a stain. You reek like curry. It's like you were bathing in it. Well, I mean, curry is delicious. Even if it's not all that spicy, it's still delicious. Wouldn't you consider bathing in curry? Oh, that'd be such a funny thought. Alright. It seems like a dream more than anything. You're just like swimming in curry and you wake up and you're like, why would I want to do that? That would be messy. I can smell it. I can smell her delicious curry on her. If she had a gym uniform, she could have changed into it, but unfortunately she didn't bring one today, and that's why no matter how many times she wiped it down with a handkerchief, Reiko's clothes were sticky and ruined by curry. Wouldn't this person just immediately go home? Like, that's probably what I'd do. I'd like either I'd probably go to the principal or the office and be like, yo, I'm like literally covered in fucking curry, man. Either I need a spare change of clothes or I'm going home. I'm assuming it's not like I'm assuming it's not like one sleeve got curry and you're just like, oh, this is awkward. I'm assuming it's like actually fell and like your entire shirt, pants are just soaked through. Eventually their anger turned towards making fun of her unfortunate appearance. The boys repeatedly jeered at her, calling her rancid and smelly, and that's how she fell into the bullied role in this class too, and meant she had that label forced upon her. The role of being mocked for how I smelled was, up until yesterday, my role. However, at this moment, my social standing rose a notch above hers. Reiko-chan? Congratulations, Yukari. Suddenly someone behind me spoke while laughing eerily. There was no way they could have known how this scenario of Reiko-chan being bullied would be a blessing for me. Why are you congratulating me for this? It's a celebration, right? This way, starting today, you won't be bullied anymore, will you? I don't know what you're talking about. Can't you see it? See what? Can't you see it? After all, until today, you were the one being bullied. That's why you should see it. The victim crown of thorns that was forced upon you? What's been transferred from your head to that girl's? I couldn't deny it. I now understood the ritual of abuse had newly fallen upon the absolute bottom, Reiko-chan. And indeed, I could see it. I could see the designation of victim that had been bestowed upon me being delivered upon her. I can't put it into words very well, but it was something I understood intuitively. It's possible. I may not be bullied anymore after today. She has inherited the role from me now. Marie sure is an idiot, but she's so cute. She's been risking her life thinking about how she could lessen your torment. And now she's worrying about it somewhere. But her idea is foolish. After all, bullying doesn't just go away. You understand, don't you? Getting rid of bullying is an impossibility. Bullying is, how do I put it? Perhaps it's like be distributed like a baton in a relay race. Once it's come around to you, you can't sit with it and do nothing, and you can't get rid of it. There's only one thing to do. Pass it to the next person. Pass the bullying on to the next person? You may not understand it, but it's just something average that happens with kids, you know? There's not one human who can say they are always perfect. Sometimes they make mistakes, and there are moments when they're made fun of. The baton of victim is something that can be passed on to anyone, but those average kids aren't stupid. They don't want to keep that baton forever, so they pass it right away to somebody else. Double English on there, basically, right? That seems to be Higanbana's philosophy, an interesting idea. I can certainly say that it's something you'd be grateful to have gone, right? If you're bullied. And I can certainly say that it would be better to consolidate with someone else who's being bullied and work with them to mitigate it, but it's hard to implement that in practice, as you're probably feeling more relieved than anything that it's gone, rather than like willing to step in and maybe take it again. So I can understand her inaction and unwillingness to act. That way they don't become the bullied kid. Exactly. Are you saying us bullied kids are people who are forced to hold the batons? Not quite. You could say a person who doesn't pass the baton is a slow learner. I probably had that baton until today, but I didn't intend to force it to Reiko-chan. That's right. After all, you were monopolizing the baton, squeezing it so closely. But regardless, they found something today. A much more splendid victim than you. They got tired of you and gave the baton away for you. They give it to Reiko-chan? That's correct. Congratulations to you, Yukari. Good fortune has arrived to you who would not release her hold of the baton. You have finally been relinquished of the role of being the victim of today. Congratulations, Yukari. Too funny. You had, and still have, a school yokai in the darkness somewhere who is greatly troubled about how to save you. Yet without any effort at all, by the meager fortune of a transfer student, you were rescued in the blink of an eye. I wonder what kind of face Marie would have to make if she knew. Just thinking about Maria's dejected expression, it sounds about as fun as gazing at the moon. What? Who is the person saying such awful things? Did anyone in the class even have a voice like that? I turned around thinking that, but there was nobody there. But that's just not... I know there's a girl with long hair, even though I know I felt her presence in her hair. Eureka. You ought to kneel down and apologize to us for it. On your knees! On your knees! Sorry? Being peer pressured by the boys, she once again got on the floor and showed how miserable she was. I wouldn't be bullied anymore after today, but even so, the pain in my heart only grew. I should jump out and cover her, telling them not to bully her, right? Should? Yes. Well, maybe not. Trying to kill your bros tower event is Goofy 111's. Oh my goodness. Oh goodness. Some people. Wow, what on earth? Did you do something so foolish? Your victim baton's finally been taken away from you. Are you gonna go out of your way to get it back again? I feel like I'm hearing the voice of that long-haired girl. Her words are not mistaken. I can, once again, take that baton. But do I want to go back to being bullied? I parted with the cursed baton because of the miracle that is this exchange student. Should I take it back again? What will you do with it? Will you clutch it tightly again and be a victim? Will you push it on someone else and run away from the torment? You can't decide that. Either it's up to the new holder of the baton, Reiko-chan, don't you think? Harmless girl whispered. I understand Reiko-chan's personality all too well. There's no way she would pass that awful baton to anyone else. I bet she would clutch onto it the same way I did. She even took everything upon herself by acting as nourishment for her classmates' hearts. Nourishment of the heart? What an interesting thing. for that child to say. Well, why not join them? From now on, she'll become the nutrition for your entire class lacks in their hearts. You should partake in it too. Are you saying I should join in even though Reiko-chan's being bullied? That's what Higanbana is suggesting. But I think it is an okay argument to say that if there is someone who doesn't feel like it is a good thing seeing someone be bullied at all, that it is possible that the heart nourishment theory falls apart, at least for in some cases, weakening her case, or it being a good thing that should happen and is natural. Like that she also invoked without evidence, but it's fine. It's fine. She's like, oh, this is my theory based on how I've been treated, so maybe we oppose it by saying there exists someone who does not receive nourishment from seeing others be bullied. And I don't think she could say that doesn't exist. She could just say the many people I've encountered experienced it. But it's also not necessarily true for her, so maybe if she is not receiving nourishment from seeing others be bullied, then she's not. Then she's an exception. Maybe that works. You have to find an exception. I can never do that. Because you could say, like, many people are evil, or innately evil, or, like, self-centered. And that only a few people are not. I think you could say something like that. You don't need to take an active role. It's just enough to dazedly remain a spectator to her torment. You don't have to get involved with these cruel boys. Leisurely enjoying peaceful days doesn't sound so bad, does it? I believe that's the peaceful school life you longed for. You should have your fill. How peaceful and quiet it would be. And occasionally you can just watch her being harassed. You should recognize and be overwhelmed with just how lucky you are to be able to lead this life now. This is the peace of mind you seek. That nourishment of the heart, no? I can't find her no matter where I turn. I must be daydreaming. Even so, she was right. This was an inescapable reality. From this day forth, our lives at school and our fates would change dramatically. Hey, you smell something? It smells so bad. I wonder what brought that into class, I wonder. I don't smell anything. You have no right to talk. You stink like hell. The boys were yelling at her just because Reiko-chan walked into the classroom. When I come into the classroom, they don't pay me any mind. Even though I finally have the piece I wanted, I'm not happy. Alright, for our next problem... what? Osumi-chan. Osumi-chan. Well, I don't know. The answer isn't curry fumes. Those careless spots are numerous with Reiko-chan. During class, she spaces out and can't even... And even when the teacher calls on her, she can't answer well. She's often lost and doesn't know what she's supposed to do next. Whenever that happens, she always laughs with a try and patch it up. It's ridiculously entertaining to the boys. It seems she doesn't know that it's best not to respond to bullying. She wants everyone to ignore her mistakes by laughing calmly. But for all intents and purposes, it's the opposite. Instead, she becomes a laughingstock. As vomit-worthy as ever. Can't you smell her? Can you smell it? Do I really still smell that? You reek curry fumes. Anyway, it ain't your hands, it's your head that stinks. Wash your hair. Even your dandruff smells like that damn curry. I wonder if I wash my hair, if it'll stop smelling so bad? It will. It will, so wash your hair, okay? Wash your hair. Wash your hair. That's clearly all the people chanting wash your hair since there's triple quotes. Okay, I'll wash it. Reiko-chan had been surrounded by the boys at the sink in front of the entrance and was washing her hands. At first she was told she should wash her hands with a scrubbing brush, but as the boys got excited they demanded she wash her head too. Even though it was certainly something she didn't want to anger them. She timidly soaked her head under the running water while forcing a smile. Use the scrub brush, it won't hurt. You actually take a bath every day? I've never smelled anything worse. Maybe I forgot to take one yesterday? The hell? Gross. Wash yourself. Take a bath every day. This girl's disgusting. Well, scrub your head real damn good. There's no way anyone could wash their hair with a scrub brush. There's no doubt her hair would get tangled from the brush, and it had to hurt. Reiko's head was soaking wet, now her hair was completely tangled. When the boys saw that, they started mocking her, saying she looked like a monster. Even she was saying she felt refreshed after washing her head and laughed her usual. Why would she say that and laugh? The boys were yelling that since they washed her filthy head, she should be more thankful. I decided not to respond to the bullying, but she responds to everything, and suddenly, the bullying she faced clearly surpassed even the degree of torment I dealt with in the past. And now, she's the popular girl in our class. It isn't like when it was me with one group of boys, the entire class. Even the girls, even the teacher, they sneer at her, they laugh at her, they humiliate her. When Reiko-chan comes in, she's made a fool of and becomes the standing joke of the day. Of course, I know her label as popular girl is demeaning, but it's dead silent when she's absent. Everyone's somehow bored, their moods become agitated. Everyone waits impatiently for the popular girl to hurry up and come back to school. Irritably, angrily, possibly even greedily. As they express their discomfort, they eagerly wait for her to come back to school. When Reiko-chan suddenly does show up, she's surrounded, and all at once the jeers and sneers are dumped onto her and she makes them laugh. She makes them laugh? Yeah, laugh, that's right. Even if you're able to close your eyes and ignore Reiko-chan's bullying, she's still, without a doubt, the class's big hit. Spreading laughter throughout the entire class, she's like the oil needed to loosen them up. Even if it wasn't obvious from the start, your classmates have a hierarchy and friction is generated between the ranks. They envy each other and look down on one another. It's impossible for a classroom to be a utopia where everyone gets along. Everyone knows that. Once again came the whispers from the long-haired girl sat in the still empty seat behind me. However, that utopia manifested because of that Reiko Osumi girl. She was the catalyst to unite everyone. Osumi. Don't you think it's truly magnificent? Is this utopia really that magnificent? Have a look yourself. Look at your classmates, even your teacher. How can you say you're dissatisfied with the entire class being so warm in their togetherness? Teacher. It looks like Osumi-san didn't take a bath yesterday either. Osumi, you have to get in the bath every day, you know? That's why everyone says you smell like curry. Everyone needs to take a bath every day and clean their bodies. You all promised your teacher. If you don't, you'll end up like curry fumes Osumi. Usumi. I don't know if it's supposed to be two O's or one O. I wanted to read it like Usumi, but... oh well. Yes, teacher. Because two O's would be the reading, right? Like, large? See? Usumi's saying again, too. If you don't take a bath every day, we'll start calling you Captain Curry. Captain Curry. I guess I got a nickname. Teacher, Captain Curry looks super happy to have gotten a nickname. If you don't want to be called the same thing, don't only take a bath, but wash your hands and gargle every day, too. You got it? Yes, teacher. The classroom was overflowing with cheery and obedient students, like a preschool or kindergarten class. The entirety of the class held the same interests, shared the same values, was unified in the same feelings. I watched this and was left completely dumbfounded. For a miraculous moment, the odd world known as school seemed a utopia. But this utopia is built on top of a misfortunate stepping stone, the bullied child Reiko-chan. Seeing her smiling that pitiful forced smile led me to believe I could never think of this as a utopia. I bet you're the type who can't eat meat because you can hear the animals cry, aren't you? Dad told me to thank the animal for the food, not to have anything left on my plate. I doubt animals want to be killed or anything, but even though you thank them, you still eat that meat. I know which it is she's sneering at. The existence of the victims, the ones Reiko called the nutrients of the heart. If it's true that they are essential nutrients, then we should also accept them with gratitude. As if we're eating meat lined up on the dinner table. No animal is born wishing to become our food. I mean, you could maybe use that argument to say it's okay to eat meat if you thank it. But then I think that would also be an argument that you could also eat people, as you just have to say thank you. In fact, that would be a justification for just about everything you wanted to do to someone else. Pretty bad excuse. Doesn't really fly. As it's an easy justification for murder. Thank you for being my entertainment. Stab, stab, stab. Okay, well, it's fine. They were entertaining you, so I guess it's cool to stab them to death. Like, you could justify anything with that. Bad approach. The reasonable approach to food would be... I think the reasonable answer to this would be like, no, we're okay with eating food because it's not sapient. And we recognize all humans as sapient creatures. That would be like we're okay with doing this because it doesn't have a sense of self, and it's like traditionally needed for a balanced diet. Okay, so it's like I have to do this, and it's not consuming someone else. Because then you could also justify adding every one of those other people to that list, or doing anything else you wanted to that person. No animal is born wishing to become our food, and in the same way, no person is born wishing to be bullied. If I can pretend not to hear the death screams of the animals and aimlessly go about eating meat, then while being grateful to our precious sacrifice, I should recognize this sense of unity and joy brimming over the classroom. If I ignore the only one being bullied, Reiko-chan, then this certainly is a utopia. It's without a doubt Utopia. Yeah, it's a utopic, might be utopic. You could even join the group of people bullying her, spending every day having fun with everyone. I know what it feels like to be bullied. I wouldn't enjoy it. That's why you're alone in the class. That's why you can't blend in with this great atmosphere and why you're left out. Certainly, I might be isolated now, but if I join them, tormenting her, I might be able to have fun with everyone. But by mocking and sneering at Reiko-chan, I'd get along with everyone. Superficially, it looks like you can't accept it. You're an interesting one, just like Maria. Pushing misfortune on someone, standing proudly above them, that everyone can be happy as long as someone suffers. I can't accept it. Well, I think you're still using your hard work. Even if you can't accept it, leisurely remaining a spectator magnificently lets you stand above her, don't you think? And unlike you, maybe because she let it get so out of hand, she actually wants to be abused. Well, when you're getting harassed, at least you tried hard not to give them an external stimuli to work with. If you respond to any bullying, you'll get bullied even more. No matter how difficult it might be, you mustn't respond. When I was the target of their harassment, that was the only defense from beginning to end. During that time, the abuse didn't stop. I thought it had no effect. However, looking at it now and comparing it to Reiko's suffering, I clearly saw the difference. When someone responds with a forced smile or tries to laugh it up like they're going along with it, it makes them feel like they're playing with them. It just promotes the abuse they face. Right? Don't you think this is her fault? Nobody came to help you in the past. Of course they didn't. After all, the only ones who can help victims of bullying are the victims themselves. In the past, I dreamt about it countless times. I waited for someone to come and save me, but no one saved me. That's right, because you wordlessly put up with it to keep from being bullied more. But Reiko Osumi isn't doing that. What's so funny? I very much enjoy seeing you torn between expressing righteous fury that's blossomed in your heart and your desire to submerge yourself beneath the peaceful waves you've finally earned. I hung my head in disgust at myself. It seems somehow she's able to read my thoughts. For an instant, I thought I should do something for her. Since I used to be bullied, I understood better than anyone what Reiko-chan wanted. Even if it's just my imagination, I want to force my way through the crowd and protect her. But if I did that, it would mean making enemies with everyone in the class. Boys, girls, anyone and everyone. By bullying Reiko-chan, everyone in the class enjoys themselves as a community. Bullying her is just as habitual as watching a popular anime in the evening. Just the thought of pointing out each of her failures so they could mock her excited everyone. But what would happen if I were to get in the way of that? Just thinking about it is frightening. If someone were enjoying an anime on TV and someone were to shut the TV off, everyone would get upset and glare in animosity. Do I have the courage in my tiny heart to face the glares of everyone in class? Thanks to the miracle of her transferring here, you were able to get out of the bullied hot seat. Maybe of your own will if you return to it this time. Just bear in mind, the convenient miracle you've been given probably won't happen again, will it? I knew that without being told. Right now, I'm just pretending to pity Reiko-chan and all the while gritting my teeth. Because I'm able to feel pity for her, there's a little leeway in my heart. Even so, I'm chewing over the idea of the joys of no longer being a victim. That's right. You're chewing it over, and you've been mulling it over for some time, apparently. Chew and hesitate in the valley between righteous fury and peace of mind. Good. Chew it some more. Your soul grows more and more delicious. It's steadily ripening. Its nectar is dripping out like a trickling fruit. You're wonderful, Yukari. Truly wonderful. Ripple more for me. You can have all the good things in life and stay there forever and ever. Bite down tight on that joy of not being the victim anymore for me. Please stop. Suddenly the class fell silent. The clatter of the crowd mocking Reiko-chan stopped. I found myself saying that without thinking. Even I was surprised at the words that came from my mouth. The teacher, the victim, my classmates, all of them, everyone, they turned to see me dumbfounded. Dumbfounded? Or was it silent amazement? Even though everyone in the class was excited and enjoying themselves by bullying Reiko-chan, why did she do it? Her shouting seemed to cause something... seemed to them like something dousing them in cold water. It was like they truly couldn't understand it from the depths of their hearts. Their piercing cold eyes saw what they couldn't understand. Those eyes, the cold eyes. If the teacher hadn't laughed to smooth things over, I wouldn't have been able to take it. I might have fainted. Yeah, it's just as Kaki says. Any more, it might well turn into bullying. Everyone promised me, be sure to gargle and wash your hands every day now. Until now, all of them would happily answer yes. And while some of them listlessly responded, everyone seemed so blatantly displeased as if someone rained on their parade. As the teacher continued feigning an unnaturally good mood, he decided it was time to leave and ended the class for the day. Wow, you got the teacher to walk out in awkwardness, realizing he's a colossal asshole. That's an impressive result. That's a very impressive result. Unlikely to actually happen in real life, but still impressive, even for the scene. And finally, Yukari-chan was released from the glare of the crowd. As if she were dumbfounded, her face showed she didn't understand what had happened. Then our eyes locked. What did I do? What just happened now? It seems she didn't even know that. I don't understand. I could hear the quiet chatter in class, uncomfortable muttering or possibly whispers, and then they would savagely twist their gazes towards me. All their eyes were watching me, and even though everyone, including the teacher, had fabricated such a fun utopia, as if asking why I went and ruined it all, countless accosting eyes were looking my way, and for a time, all the two of us could do among them was stand dumbfounded, our eyes fixed on each other. That day, we both left school together for the first time in a long time. In the bright red sunset, after a long time, we went home together. When she first transferred, we often did this, but after she started being bullied, somehow our relationship became awkward and distant. Thinking back on it, I was cruel. Reiko, I'm sorry. I should have done this much sooner. Oh, what do you mean? The bullying. If I'd joined in, I would have been supporting it, and I couldn't do that. I think I knew. I always thought someone who was watching over me far away would save me, but they wouldn't do it. Pretending not to see it doesn't mean bullying doesn't exist. That was while I was being passive. That's not it. Watching over bullying without stopping it. There's not much of a difference between myself and the people snickering, watching it go on. I mean, unless the bullies are stopped. No matter where, no matter when, they'll continue bullying forever and ever. Yeah. If we try and look at it from the bully side of things, not stopping it's the same as allowing it to happen, right? Or not having the ability to do so, yes. Everyone seemed to be having fun. Maybe everyone was having fun? But Reiko, you weren't having fun, were you? I can make everyone happy that... Are you saying this was fun for you? Like hell it was fun for you. I chose not to keep my mouth shut in the face of what seemed like inescapable bullying, but from Reiko-chan's perspective, she thought she was being useful to everyone by being abused. It was a lie she deceived herself with, so she wouldn't have to face the pain within. Reiko-chan, I wonder just how long have you been deceiving yourself with that lie? But, why so on doing bad things? Everyone seemed to be enjoying themselves. Was it enjoyable for you? Well, if everyone's enjoying themselves, then I'm having fun. Liar. I've had enough. Keep fooling yourself. Who am I? Reiko-chan, you're just forcing yourself into thinking it's fun. It's fun. It's because you couldn't get away and no one would help you. You've chosen to lie to yourself and trap yourself in sadness. But you know you don't have to do that anymore. What? Does I'll protect you? Protect me? I've decided. I've had it being scared of bullying. Since I don't want to be bullied myself, why should I stand by and watch while someone else gets bullied? I'll never let that happen again. Reiko-chan stood astonished against the world, painted by the colors of the evening sun. I had purged all my feelings at once. I was huffing and puffing in my shoulders, motioned with my breathing. Yeah. For some reason, doing that made my mind feel refreshed. It was cathartic. But because I was being bullied? You were able to run from your bullies? Yet. That's right. I mean, really, by letting you become their target, whether it was good or bad, I was able to escape from being bullied. That didn't make me happy one bit. I mean, I saw you being abused right before my very eyes. If I was pretending not to see what they were doing to you, if I was happy just because I wasn't the one being bullied, there's something definitely wrong with that. Yes, interesting statement. I'd probably argue that this is a realistic enough depiction, maybe slightly over the top with the teacher joining in all the time. But that seems fair. And I'd wager that although our protagonist is the only character that made a comment, there were probably a few other people on the fence about it who didn't have the willpower or desire to do anything. Which is why they also didn't do anything for Sakaki. And there's a decent number of people who are actively pursuing the bullying. Maybe those 4 people. Maybe those 4 people and a couple others. Who are actually sources of the trouble. Isn't it just fine though? Everyone else is just enabling them. Then Sakaki-san doesn't have to be bullied? Bullying won't stop. There has to be at least one target in the class, and that's me. Wrong. I don't think you get it. Saying that someone has to be bullied is wrong. I won't go along with it, and I won't let it happen again. Aki-san. Suggesting that one person in the classroom has to be bullied is a stupid rule. Reiko-chan was glad to be bullied, so I wouldn't have to be bullied in her place. It's the same as adhering to and supporting the bizarre rule. I mean, to truly escape from bullying. That doesn't mean I'd be fine with someone being bullied, as long as I wasn't bullied. Because I really hate bullying. You should know the pain of it more than anyone else. It doesn't matter who is being bullied. The truth is, if bullying happens under my watch, that's the same as allowing it to happen. And I can't let that happen. For someone who's never been bullied before, bullying might be fun. For them it might be entertaining as gathering everyone up and watching a TV show. Because I know what that kind of pain's like, I had to stand up to it. And someone who won't put up with bullying, I spoke up as it was my duty to fight it. And never again. I just won't watch you being bullied again. I'll say to myself how glad I am if I'm not the one being bullied. If you do that, you might end up as the target again. Well, if they bully me again, I'll tell them to stop it, and then ignore them. I won't give them the pleasure of being their target. And next time, you can save me, Reiko-chan. Me? Yep. Next time you will, of course. If you do end up being bullied, I'll be there to save you, and then when it comes to it, if someone else is being bullied, let's fight for that person. Together. Right? We'll fight. Until today, I'd never thought I'd use the word fight against bullying. I always thought bullying was something that one could only bite their lip and bear. I thought it inescapable. Oh, that's wrong. Let's fight it. We'll fight it. Alright? But you can't stop bullying. Well, think that being the scapegoat? By giving up like that, everyone in class will be happy? Then happiness is a lie. You think if someone's made the butt of all jokes and everyone else enjoys themselves, it's supposed to be a utopia? I won't go along with that lie. That false paradise not anymore. I won't. Are you saying it's wrong to try and make everyone happy? By the way, I know this has gone far from philosophical, and it's just like bullying bad, you know. The arc has gone in a less interesting direction than it kind of started out with, but I'm okay with it taking this route, as it's easier to sell a message or a story that is like bullying bad, and if everyone agrees it's bad, we can stop bullying, than it is to be like, well, we need to come up with a a philosophical solution to why you shouldn't kill yourself. It's like I'm sure Ryukishi could do that if he had designs to do that. Write a philosophical text because he likes writing very complicated stuff, but it may not be his long-term interests long enough to maintain a really long overarching story, or just a really long story in general for that. So, while this might be not as exciting as the start, or interesting, I'm fine with it taking this route. As it was what I was kind of expecting we'd go down. Are you saying it's wrong to try and make everyone happy? Yes. But Reiko-chan, stop it. If you don't have to think like that anymore. By thinking like that, she'd been protecting herself and her heart. I think having that protection taken away must be hard on her. She thought she was being useful to everyone, and so she put up with it. The pain of having that role taken away from her, it must have been crushing. Reiko's eyes began welling up in large teardrops, and those tears reflected the colors of the evening sun. Enough. How about you stop covering that up with bullying with your tears? You're just doing that to make them feel good. And since to them you seem to me as too, you cause them to misunderstand their bullying as fun and games. How about saying a strong no to the bullying and ignoring them until it stops? I'll help. I'll always be with you. So, you don't have to suffer alone anymore. Reiko-chan, unable to stand it, finally buried her face in her hands and cried. The pain, the sadness she must have been hiding until now, deep within her chest, came pouring out. And I also, for some reason, wanted to cry with her, and suddenly the tears came. My tears were warm, and they clearly showed the colors of the evening sun. Use the same metaphor again, but it's fine. It was just slightly surprising. I was like, oh, that's the same metaphor in the same order. Then the same colored tears she was shedding as I was must have been warm as well. It won't stop bullying. It'll never stop. Right. We can't simply be rid of it. But you know, I won't let stuff like that, false utopia, fly ever again. In that happy utopia, everyone was fun. Had fun bullying. Something like that's definitely not a utopia. Everyone might seem to be enjoying themselves when they're bullying you, Reiko-chan. But when you're not there, they get really upset. It's almost to the point where they die of boredom because they can't bully you. It isn't a utopia, a world where everyone is always happy, always smiling together happily. If that's true, if Reiko-chan can't be happy, then if Reiko's the only one sad in a world where everyone laughs together, I absolutely won't allow it to happen. But everyone seems to have so much fun bullying. There's nothing fun about it. Everyone's crazy. Kaki-san, you've been a bullied kid. You don't know it, but the truth. Maybe bullying really is fun. As long as everyone's having fun, then bullying's fun too. Doesn't matter if everyone's enjoying themselves. I don't want a world where that can only exist because of someone else's sadness. The bullying ones can't fight back against bullying with their own strength alone. So I'll save them. And we'll fight back. I'm finally free. The cool evening breeze blows, my hair flows with the wind. Somehow it feels good. Today's event was the start, and I might be bullied from tomorrow on, but I won't lose. I'm dedicated to the fight, and Reiko-chan will fight for me. This reads like the ending scene. The idea that someone can be made a scapegoat and everyone else that remains has their fun, that kind of bullying, I won't let that happen again. Kaki-san, you're a strange girl. I'm not strange, I'm normal. It's those kids who think something like bullying is fun. They've always been the strange ones, the crazy ones. Everyone enjoys bullying, though. Bullying? It's not fun. But it's because Sakaki hasn't bullied someone before. And I won't, no matter what. It's because you don't know the fun of bullying. Huh? At that moment, a gust of wind blew. It wasn't like the coolness of what was blowing before. It was humid, warm, and enough to make me sweat. A foul wind. Reiko-chan still had her face buried in her hands, but her eyes were peeking through the slits between her fingers. From there, pure black eyes looked outwards. Eyes? No. Pure black, pure muddy black holes from between her fingers, peeking out. Bullying is fun. Everyone loves it. When someone is bullied, everyone in class becomes one. There's no boys, no girls, no teachers. Everyone surrounds me. Hand in hand, they form a ring, even though everyone gets along. Are we getting like a supernatural interlude / ending? Okay. Why don't you join that ring, Sakaki-san? Reiko-chan? Haki-san, why don't you join the bullying? It's fun. It's addictive. If you join in the bullying, you can take anyone's hand. Bullying won't stop. It can't stop. Like wishing for the sun that rises at dawn and sinks at dusk to disappear. I was perfectly okay with a non-supernatural ending. I hope that this feels like an extra added on for people who wanted to go back to the supernatural stuff, because all of these have ended in supernatural stuff. Humans can't live without the sun. Everyone take up their hands and form a ring for the sun. Everyone, let's dance with joy. Let's form a ring and dance. Everyone, let's smile and have fun. Fun together. If we remember that, no one can forget. No one can escape now. No one can get away from the fun of bullying. Reiko-chan? No one can escape now. No one. Tormenting people. Everyone has fun. Everyone feels good. Once they experience it, it's addictive. So addictive they won't forget it. Once they start, they can't live without bullying people. Takaki, why don't you bully me? If you did, I'd let you learn the greatest pleasure you could experience as a human being. What? Really? Alright. You'll get along with everyone, even those bullies who ridiculed you. Isn't that wonderful? If you cooperate and humiliate the scapegoat with everyone, you'll be invited through the gate to the Utopia where you can be friends with everyone. I mean, Marie did say it was very strange the way they were acting. It was unnatural. As typically bullies should act differently. So we could have suspected a demon. But that wasn't the most interesting part about the story, so I didn't lean into it. Damn it. Alright, and yet you won't go? I don't get it. I can't understand you. Until now everyone's come to see the bullied child. When they're being bullied, they make faces like the world's going to end and hate bullying, yet I appear and take their place. And when they bumble into joining the ring of bullies. But you're strange, weird. You won't allow bullying? Won't accept it? Let's fight it together? Who are you? What? And then, Yukari saw something strange. It wasn't Reiko's strange smile before her eyes, but something far behind her. Beyond her stood a curved mirror. A dump truck or something probably hit it. It was bent a bit. Instead of facing a side alley, it was facing this way. My reflection was in the mirror. Just my reflection. That can't be. Is it standing and facing this way? There's no way it couldn't be reflecting, and yet my reflection is there, and yet Reiko Usumi's isn't. Kari stared at the mirror, and Reiko looking back and forth over and over again. With the ominously smiling girl directly in front of her, nevertheless, the curved mirror showed no one else but Yukari. I've been careless. Think there'd be a mirror like that over there. My reflection completely slipped my mind. As if to simply allow her reflection to appear in the curved mirror, she clapped her hands. And despite how late it was now, the reflection of her back projected onto the mirror. However, the figure that reflected there was a different thing than the girl who stood before her. And now she finally realized there was no room for doubt. Reiko Osumi wasn't human. Who are you? You're not human? Usumi. Reiko Usumi, indeed. I just took on the guise of Reiko Usumi. Think I would be found out in such a place like this? How troublesome. If I let you spread word that Reiko Usumi isn't human, that'll cause even more trouble for me. Reiko's eyes glared and shined ominously. Her grin cut through her face to the point of being ghoulish, and she even licked her lips. Reiko, with her ghastly reflective eyes, grew larger and larger. She drew so close that she almost hit me with her nose. Who are you? If you're not Reiko, then... You don't need to know. I'm going to eat you right here. Slurp you up, you see. As the laughter begins. The moment Reiko held out both arms ready to devour Yukari, something violently sent Yukari flying. She couldn't tell what happened. Her backside hit the asphalt, and it took her a bit of struggling to understand what happened. That's as far as you go, Reiko Usumi-san. And the name you went by last year, Urara Misumi-san. Oh? Why isn't it Meso Marie? So you're the one who's been sniffing around my territory. Yukari had been protected. The moment Reiko was about to eat her, a spectacled girl saved her. I don't know who you are, but thank you for saving me. Oh, you were in danger. This person's a yokai. Furthermore, she's the very, very nasty kind. Oh, so there are yokai that aren't nasty then. Marie, you say such amusing things. Please don't come closer than that. I won't let you have this, girl. Marie held out her arms, protecting Yukari behind her. Reiko, rather the yokai with Reiko's name, saw this, shrugged her shoulders, and laughed. You're a school yokai? Of course. An introduction then. A 7th-ranked school yokai, Sumire of the Twilight. The 7th-ranked yokai, Sumire of the Twilight, one of the ruling yokai of the 7 mysteries handed down in the school. Playing eternally in the schoolyard as twilight approaches, you'll suddenly realize there's an unknown girl blending in and playing. Even if you wonder if she's someone's friend, no one seems to care. And even if you ask everyone later, she's a mysterious girl no one knows. But if you follow after her, even through the darkness of the night, even though the darkness of the night is nearing, you won't realize it, and you'll play forevermore. That is the rumor of how you'd be spirited away. Mira-san, taking the liberty of checking up on you, I already know all about you. I know about the kind of hunting you do. Oh, I am but a powerless yokai. Naturally, I can hardly go to the trouble to hunt, therefore I don't search for prey. I birth hunters. Mire's hunt. It was bullying itself. However, she doesn't bully anyone on her own. She creates a victim, and from the infinite amount of harassment born from the bullies, she takes their souls bit by bit. Last year, you presented a transfer student in class named Misumi. She became the victim. The instrument you needed to turn the entire class into bullies. The tears I shed are devil's tears. They cause those who bully me to feel the devilish pleasure of bullying. Interesting. Mire's tears have the power to bewitch humans and stain their soul with darkness. Those who harass her become obsessed with how enjoyable it is. Their souls become corrupted and they stoop to the level of becoming a school bully. Interesting. Before, you deceived the entirety of Class 6 with that power, and turned them all into those terrors. Impressive to bewitch an entire class like that. Then, suddenly, she disappeared from Class 6 after faking her own death in an accident. Okay. So she turns them all into bullies via magic. Makes sense. Then she, upon losing their target of torment, as though they've been reduced to addicts, after changing classes, they keep bullying throughout the school year in their respective classes. The bullying scrapes away at the pitiful victim's soul and is presented to Sumire as the spoils of her hunt. How efficient. Get your victims to do your hunting for you. Those delightful children from the former Class 6 are doing splendidly for me even now. But a class of 40 people is still not enough. This time you took the name Reiko Usumi and tried to turn another class into bullies. But the quantity is far too meager. I intend to proceed thusly, turning class after class into full-blown bullies. When the number swells up to 100 or 200, they'll all shift grade levels and spread year-round. Before long, the entire school will be blooming with my bully flowers. Oh, to sup upon their sweet nectar. This is it. This is the refined hunting of Sumire of the Twilight. Tricking people and turning them into bullies, causing so much bullying in so many classrooms. Have you thought about how much suffering you've caused? You're a strange one, Marie. What's wrong with a yokai deceiving a human? Besides, as you know, us yokai can't do anything but entice and deceive. Moreover, if they hearken to our words and surrender their hearts to me, it's by their own human wills. Oh, and what do you think I did to this class? All I did was spill some cafeteria curry. Those children are the ones who approached me and made a laughingstock of me, persecuted me. Cruelty is their nature. Sumire was cackling. She was sneering at how shameful human beings are. It was apparent her tears had devilish power, but her power was not absolute. Like how Yukari opposed it, it's not impossible to fight against the temptation of the haze. However, that wicked temptation to sneer at people's failure is surrendering your soul to the devil. What kind of person? Why would anyone create bullying? You should have obtained plenty of souls through that hunt, Sumire-san. I'll ask you now, please stop. Oh, you're telling me to desist? I heard from Higanbana. I heard that Mesa Mesa Marie was a troublesome creature that gets in the way of hunting. Regardless, we are school yokai. We have the freedom to hunt, and we have the freedom to stand in the way as well. And so as a matter of course, I have the freedom to decline your suggestion for me to stop. I'm asking you, please leave Yukari-chan's class alone. Please. And what do you intend to do if I say no? As the 8th ranked school yokai, as Mesa Mesa Marie, I will stop you. That's quite troubling. It's rude you have the power to crush every bone in the body to pieces. I don't know if a feeble being like myself could cross swords with you. She said as much, but Sumire snickered with sarcasm. Among the school yokai, she was certainly of the feeble sort, but the same could be said for Marie. Marie swallowed with a gulp and she prepares herself. Yokai cannot be persuaded with words. They have to be taken down by force. It's the only way to persuade a school yokai. It's their unwritten rule of diplomacy. Marie might be a half-wit dunce, but once she makes up her mind, she can be pretty stubborn, you know. Higanbana-san. Well then, the dancing Higanbana, how do you do? How unusual do you show yourself in a place like this? Suddenly, Higanbana was on top of the wall, looking down on the two facing off. She was laughing. Marie, you found out Sumire's true form, yeah? The way the former girl from Class 6 was acting was too strange. I thought it was maybe like this. Higanbana seemed to make fun of her with a smile. Marie let loose a brief sigh. In all likelihood, Higanbana knew from the beginning everything was Sumire's hunting game. She must have thought it amusing watching the clueless Marie running around every which way. And us. But, you know, it was still an interesting plot. If we ignore the yokai stuff. Could have told me. Higanbana-san, sometimes you can be so mean. Well, Marie, you're so fun to watch. Anyway, Marie, so you're fighting to protect Yukari, then shouldn't you fight Sumire-chan seriously? Come on, really are a dunce. Well, Yukari, you understand, don't you? If you defeat Twilight Sumire, Reiko Usumi, what will happen starting tomorrow? Yukari, who had been left out of the conversation, was suddenly sucked back in. Don't you get it? If Reiko Usumi suddenly disappears starting tomorrow, what would happen to the bullies in your class? You don't mean... How despicable. Marie finally realized it. You can't easily defeat Sumire. And if Reiko Usumi disappears from class, wouldn't her bullying-addicted classmates search for their next target? Well, I guess we can't tell her off. You know what we need to do to stop, this partial hypnosis mind control? That's right. The solution is a very, very hungry yokai having a bite to eat. As long as Reiko Usumi is there, just who is it that escapes the brand of the bullied child? You don't mean... You. Bullied child, Yukari Sakaki. Without me, you just go back to being the target once more. We were just teased by a number of former Class 6 members, but this time, it won't be so gentle. Even now, the class is nothing but wolves starting to abuse someone. Starting tomorrow, you'll know what it feels like to be a chicken in a cage of starving wolves. Yukari, seen it every day, haven't you? Just how much all your classmates have been abusing Reiko Usumi. You've watched from a distance, and you've felt safe since it had nothing to do with you, right? They made fun of me and insulted me with you reek. Even the teacher belittled me. I was made a laughingstock in class. And once again, a repulsive feeling crawled up Yukari's spine. She wouldn't accept that. The suggestion, ever so slightly, somewhere deep in her mind, she saw Reiko being bullied and was glad it wasn't her. That was something she couldn't accept, and starting tomorrow, she'd suffer again. It was guaranteed, and she was afraid. You don't like it? Being bullied by the whole class, that is? Well, let's fight bullying together. You have no friends to fight with. You'll be alone, humiliated, and even the teacher will sneer at you. You think you could fight even then? Even when there were just a few former Class 6 people doing it, all you could do was ignore it. This time, when you're bullied by the entire class, how will you fight then? Huh? Huh? Yukari couldn't say anything in reply. Hanging her head, trembling and biting her lip, she finally folded her arms to stop her body from shaking. Marie couldn't say anything in response either. The desire to save Yukari, the desire to stop Sumire's hunt. Her resolution still hadn't wavered one bit, but she still didn't know how she could fight back. Marie wasn't afraid, but her whole body shook from frustration. Marie, there's nothing you can do, okay? Step aside. Mary is a fun girl and all, but she'll really be mean to you, you know? I won't budge. I won't stand by and watch as Yukari is bidden to pray for a yokai. How about you try fighting me? Perhaps the terrifying Mesa-Mesa-san's arms will try grabbing me and crushing all the bones in my body. How scary. Sumire slowly walked to Marie, both her arms extended as she shrugged. It was as if she was saying, just try and hit me. Marie's fists were shaking, but she could do nothing. When she defeated Sumire, you're being given a false equivalence, and assumptions are being made that aren't necessarily true. We don't know if the corruption is permanent, and we don't know what Sakaki's decision is. She's like, oh, it'd be worse if you killed me. It's like, oh, we don't know that. You don't know that. You're doing that because you may not be good in a fight. We don't know enough about her, right? If she defeated Sumire, Yukari would be thrown into a maelstrom of terrifying abuse from tomorrow onwards. She's using her words to petrify you instead of just letting you gobble her up, because you're probably physically stronger than her. What's the matter? There's no way the legendary Mesa-Mesa-san will be afraid of a powerless yokai like myself, is there? Marie, step aside. Can't you see? Sumire is already 2 pages ahead of you. I won't budge. I said I'd protect Yukari-chan. Foolish, Marie. Even though I keep telling you there's nothing you can do. You can't do anything then, Mesa-Mesa-san? I give you my thanks. You would dare to interfere with Sumire of the Twilight, and interfere with my hunt with such boastful and sharp, courageous words. I wholeheartedly commend you. Just let it go. After all, you still don't know the loneliness of our world. Well then, I'll be the one to teach you that. From Sumire's shadow, suddenly countless massive black arms sprout forth, and they creep towards Marie and they entwine around her as if caressing her. You're not running? You abandon Yukari Sakaki and leave. I'd be fine with letting you go, you know. I won't abandon Yukari-chan. You can't stop me, just like you can't stop the bullying at school. I'll teach you just how rewarding your foolish resistance is. All at once, countless arms jumped, and while seizing Maria, the arms pull her into Sumire's shadow. Her shadow was a jet black nightmare lagoon. The thick mud was filled with Marie's memories of being bullied when she was alive, and they tormented her. Almost like a washing machine, the countless arms violently tossed Marie in the swamp. With a slap, a thump, she was hit countless times, submerged down, stirred up, and thrown around. Foolish Marie. Mirai-chan, go easy with the scolding, okay? That girl has, in a way, become my friend, after all. Oh, I don't want to. After all, this is Sumire of the Twilight's first encounter with Mesa-Mesa, Marie. I'll have my first impression permeate into her flesh and bone. What's wrong with Marie? What's wrong, Marie? If you're getting tired of this raid, you won't be able to handle being a school yokai, will you? We're gonna dig deeper, deeper, and I'm gonna bury you deep in the swamp of memories of abuse. Mirai was relentless. When Marie was bullied in her other life, she lost her life. And by having those memories revive, they brought back the terrible pain of being killed all over again. And with that in mind, she was dunked into that bog of agony over and over again. Submerged deeper and deeper, slapped again and again. Tormented by repulsive memories, Marie's eyes shot open. Her face became a blur of tears, snot, and drool. Even so, Sumire showed Marie no mercy. For the yokai with power using it against the powerless yokai, this was bullying itself. Being shown the grand spectacle, Yukari couldn't move. He could only shiver in terror. For long, the quivering shell of Marie, damp with tears and snot, was tossed to the curbside. After the merciless Sumire's torture from hell, about as much could be expected. It was so relentless that even Higanbana surprisingly left in the middle of it. Yukari rushed over to the girl who'd become her martyr to protect her and shook her body. Hang in there. Sorry, I couldn't be of any use. No, thanks for fighting for my sake. Don't lose, no matter what. Those were her last words. Then she completely lost her yokai power, and like a mist, her body dissolved and completely disappeared. For now, no, until the end of time, I don't think she'll bother me or anyone ever again. A cruel person. Marie blurted something out about protecting you, right? Well, I've decided, starting tomorrow, I'll completely disappear. Starting tomorrow, the bullied child in class will be you, Yukari Sakaki. Exactly like the pronouncement of a death sentence, Yukari felt all the blood in her body freeze. Oh, the 40 bullies in class I've corrupted with my devilishness will drool in anticipation of you coming to school tomorrow. Let's have fun. Fight bullying? I wonder, can you still utter such nonsense? Yukari Sakaki. Yield to me and swear to bully Reiko Usumi tomorrow. Are you saying I should join the bullies? Exactly. If you do, I won't disappear. Join the dark side and together we'll rule the join the team bullies. And together we'll abuse someone else. Alright, it's a pitch. I'll gladly continue taking the abuse from the bullies in class starting tomorrow, understand? You do? The chaos even tormented Yukari by giving her a headache. If you're not bullied, you're bullying. That's the providence, the divine law of school. And even though I'm not being bullied, I'm not bullying others. Since I go against that, I'm probably a heretic. I don't want to be bullied again. I don't want to be sneered at by everyone as they go, you stink, you reek. At any rate, Reiko Usumi is a yokai. It's not like being bullied hurts her at all. Then maybe... Let's hear your reply. Yukari Sakaki. Let's hear... Then again, maybe I don't even have to ask. I refuse. Oh, I thought so. Pretending I don't see it, so I don't get bullied, or even to add to the harassment? I won't do it. That to me is my fight against bullying. As she said it, she was already regretting it. But after saying the words, fighting against bullying meant she had to bear the consequences, the Mirai of the Twilight sneered. She sneered at the foolishness of a human whose righteous fury that had gone away came back. Starting tomorrow, your world will change like that. The withdrawal from my tears are absolutely dreadful. Your class will transform into starving beasts. You should look forward to when tomorrow comes. I'll erase my presence and I'll simply watch over what I scraped off of the class's souls. I'm looking forward to how delicious your soul will be. In before the teacher is arrested for abusing his students, that would be a funny ending. Like he shows up to class and it's like the teacher is like detained for abusing his students. What if his students? That'd be some funny shit. And leaving behind a cruel laugh, she disappears. After that, it's only the usual scenery from the end of a school day. I made it seem like the terrifying spectacle from only seconds ago was like a daydream or a hallucination, but it was clearly not a daydream. The yokai's horrifying promise of tomorrow was burned into her mind. Well, she's got the confidence. Let's see if she can tough it out. And then the next day, Reiko Usumi suddenly disappeared. As though she'd never been there from the very beginning, she disappeared from everyone's memories. But what did they remember? What they couldn't wipe away was the forbidden pleasure of bullying, and naturally they aimed their attacks right at Yukari. Ugh, something stinks like curry! Started stinking like curry the second Sakaki came in. Since the human they'd been bullying up until yesterday, Reiko Usumi, was not there, it seemed Yukari would be next. Just like how yesterday it seemed natural to target Reiko, just as naturally now the attacks turned towards Yukari. Quiet, everyone, quiet. Just because Sakaki stinks of curry doesn't mean you can keep talking forever. Ugh, it reeks. Somebody open a window. Come on, get to your seats. We decided on seats for our social studies field trip. I don't want to sit next to Captain Curry. Sakaki, make sure you take a bath the day before, okay? Promise, teacher, won't you? I do. Every day. Why the hell do you stink so bad?
Lovely teacher.
Yukari bit her lip and hung her head, enduring all 40 people in the class. No, including the teacher, 41 were sucked into this whirlpool of bullying. Because she used to have her bullied companion Reiko, Yukari had dared to say something as outrageous as "let's fight together," and even so, is there even a way for someone to fight against bullying all by themselves? There isn't one. Of course, to suggest we could fight bullying was nonsense, and thanks to Reiko-chan, I hadn't been bullied, so somewhere in my heart I must have felt happy about that. Aside from those being bullied themselves, bullying must seem so trivial. Though thinking I'd be able to somehow fight against it, it was a delusion. However, on that day, even the yokai called Marie fought to protect me, just so I wouldn't have to get my hands dirty against that terrifying yokai, Sumire. She had terrible things done to her and she couldn't escape. Even though she could have given up on me and ran away, she didn't. It's not a fight, because Marie couldn't interfere. Same goes for bullying. In the face of her abuse, Marie fought resolutely. She didn't run away even at the very end. What are you hanging your head for? Listen to when people talk to you. I bet Sakaki was just off in La La Land. Your curry stench is getting on everyone's nerves. Want to tell us you don't feel responsible for that? What good is it gonna do if you say anything? It's all your fault people call it the stinking curry class. Nothing, I gave them no response. If I did, I'd be hit by a response 100-fold worse. Withstanding it and ignoring it's the only way to fight I have. But I know, if I snap back, I'll be snapped back at 100 times over in return, and even if I don't, it's still increased by 5, maybe 10. No matter what I do or don't do, there's no way to stop the bullying from escalating if there's no rest for the bullied. Why the hell won't that curry stink come off of her? Think it's her clothes? I bet she doesn't even wash her clothes. Clothes do reek something fierce. If you ain't gonna wash them, we'll wash them for you. Wait, what are you? Ah! Come on, we're washing them for you. Take them off. It's only because they stink. Stop struggling so much. Boys are pervs. Take off your socks, strip them. Wash them. Don't throw them over here. Stop it. Take it off. Take it off. Resist all you want. We're gonna wash them for you. The swarming boys stripped Yukari of her clothes, one piece after another. While watching this display, the girls giggled in their shrill voices. Nobody tried to stop the brutality of a girl having her clothes torn off. Countless violent arms were ripping at Yukari's hair, grabbing her clothes and ripping off her buttons. Her skin was exposed, and everyone could see her in her underwear. None of the boys even once thought they were taking it too far. They only thought it was at the same level as some petty horseplay around a campfire. They even planned to take off her underwear. Yukari resisted their malice and knew no end with all her might, but there was no way she could stand up against such a large crowd of boys. Strip, let's wash the whole set. Stop it, somebody, help me. In the shadows of the classroom, Sumire was watching the spectacle and laughed with a vile grin. To her, what the boys were stripping Yukari of were not her clothes, it was her soul. Her soul scattered and drifted through the classroom like feathers ripped from a down pillow. Simply delectable. Plucking one of the fragments and putting it to her mouth, she stickily placed it to her tongue and relished it as it dissolved. What's the matter, Yukari? Weren't you supposed to be fighting against the bullying? I'm simply dying for you to show me. Stop it. No. Struggling with all her might, Yukari writhed against the boys and managed to push her way out of the circle. Half naked, she burst out of the classroom, fleeing. There was no place to run to, however. If she didn't run away, they'd violate her. The boys also burst into the hallway. The most fun they'd had fun stripping Yukari, had now changed to the fun of chasing her down. Yeah. They heard her short cry, and with that was the cry of countless girls. Something's there. The boys swarmed and overlooked the staircase. At the bottom of the staircase, Yukari had collapsed. Having stumbled over something, she fell down the stairs and somehow seemed to have split her forehead. The fresh blood was slowly coloring the floor, and that sight seemed to have been powerful enough to return the excited, horse-playing boys back to sanity. But what was it Yukari had tripped on? Even though there was nothing she could have tripped over, she certainly tripped over something they couldn't see. Yukari, in her hazy subconsciousness, found the presence of that long-haired girl. What an unbecoming pose, falling down the stairs, splitting open your forehead. You're such a klutz. I think I remember her. She was with Sumire, the young yokai named Higanbana. Are you the one who made me fall? That's right, because you became such a delicious soul for me. I thought, maybe I could snatch up my food now. Now won't you show me some gratitude? Now you'll be carried to the infirmary. In just a short moment you'll be able to escape from Sumeria's children's harassment. Am I going to die? There's no way you'll die with just a scratch on your forehead. I don't kill, I only suggest how much easier it would be for you if you took your own life. Come, I'll take you to the infirmary. And you'll know the pleasures of running from your bullying for a brief moment. And then you won't be able to return to your class. You'll be an inhabitant of the infirmary forever and ever. My precious prisoner. Yukari's consciousness began to recede. The teachers held her and started transporting her to the infirmary. I have to fight. I won't be a resident of the infirmary or anything like that. I have to do this for the yokai Marie. I told her she could run away and leave me. She stayed and protected me, but at this rate, I'll just listen to that dark temptation. If I die in my sleep, no one will be able to torment me anymore. Someone help. For a few days after that, Yukari Kaki decided to be absent from school. It wasn't that she was scared of being bullied and decided to run away from school. Whether it was because her wound from when she fell down the stairs got infected, or if Sumire and Higanbana had been nibbling at her soul, for several days she had a high fever and was unable to get out of her futon. Every day she was tormented by the seductive idea of dying from her fever, and if she did that, she wouldn't have to go to school. They couldn't bully her, but still. The next day, the students took the bus to their social studies field trip. The destination, well, the students didn't care. As long as they could escape the cramped classroom, whatever the outing was, didn't change anything. The buses were escorted up the mountain path. No matter which bus it was, the children were overflowing with excitement in their voices. However, Yukari's class bus was silent. Even though the other buses were flooded with laughter, only this bus was frozen with oppressive silence. They weren't all sleeping. Everyone was looking downwards in displeasure and dissatisfaction. Some would utilize their vocal cords, but their grumbles just wordlessly expressed their agitation. All of them were in withdrawal. Yukari Sakaki was resting for days. Everyone in the class is a bully. They couldn't go another day without someone to bully. That irritation made them furrow their brows, grind their teeth. Ah, it's pissing me off. Somebody screamed. With that, everyone's displeasure flowed out like a dam breaking and gushing forth. Won't that bitch come to school? Messing around with us playing hooky? How dare she? She comes trumping along again, smelling of curry. We'll really wash her off. We already know she's gonna stink like curry. Yeah, if she comes around, let's throw her a big welcome party. By the way, boys, stop putting cockroaches in Sakaki's desk. I don't want to think about what would happen if they got out and came towards us. Oh, we'll smash them. It's fine. How many are there now? 6? I put one in yesterday, too. That was 7. I can't believe you guys. One would think that a friendly conversation had finally started up, but once Yukari came to school again, all of it would turn into a devilishly warm bullying reception. They'd glare with an evil twinkle in their eyes, and once they laughed at her. It would be hard to feel the warmth of humanity for them. While Sumire watched this, she smiled in satisfaction. Her adorable children, who knew that forbidden pleasure would next year be scattered throughout the school when the classes change. They'd likely bloom in all their destinations. Where from then on, Sumire would gulp down all the honey from their flowers. My flowers will fill the school. How exuberant, how exciting. Ozaki-kun, can't you come play with us too? You know, the way we used to? Yeah. I know you were totally crushed that one time, but let's do something fun again, just like old times. The formerly obstinate bully Ozaki had been threatened by Meso Meso, and had sworn he'd never pick on Yukari Sakaki again. However, his eyes warped into a wicked glare. He broadly sneered. You're right. The hell is Meso Meso-san anyway? That had to be some sort of big misunderstanding. Alright! If she comes back, we'll give her a feast she'll never forget, just like old times. Off Uzaki-kun's special menu? What are we doing this time? We'll put cockroaches in her desk, smash them up, put them in curry and make her eat it? It's perfect for Captain Curry Sakaki. From now on, she'll be Captain Cockroach. Hell yeah, okay. That's gross, but yeah, alright. Interesting crew. Mirai blended in with the bus as it was wrapped in rowdy laughter. But just then, the bus suddenly jerked and shook. The driver screamed and violently turned the wheel. The bus swung vigorously and the inside was filled with screams. The bus driver swore he saw it. Out of the blue, a girl wearing red clothes appeared in the middle of the road. In that split second, the tires exploded and gave a huge rumble. The bus's large build turned it sideways and it crashed through the guardrail. The road was a highway deep in the woods of a mountain. Past the guardrail was a dark, green, and thick valley. What's this? What the? Sumire stared dumbfoundedly as the bus tumbled down to the bottom of the valley, and she looked at the flattened frame of the bus as it blew clouds of smoke upwards. Did Higanbana just kill like 30 people? It fell from this height. There's no way to save anyone. My beautiful flowers, what happened to you? At the sound of the memorable laugh, Sumire swirled. Did she convince the bus driver to commit suicide, killing everyone else? That'd be a fucking twist. It's like, yeah, joke's on you. You should have paid attention to the bus driver the whole time. Not that we even had a character for him. There, sitting on the guardrail, was Higanbana with her hair fluttering in the wind. What do you think you're doing? What did you do to my lovely, seasoned, wonderful, adorable flowers? Thanks for the meal. I guess snatching one up from the sidelines can be tasty as well. Why would you do something like this, you bitch? Well, we're school yokai, aren't we? You said it yourself. We have the freedom to hunt when we want, but we also have the freedom to get in the way if we want to, right? So of course, we have the freedom to steal from the sidelines too. Higanbana! Of course, if you have any complaints, you're free to talk about them too. Shall we dance? You could dance with the third-ranked school yokai, the dancing Higanbana. If I recall correctly, you like to play for a long time, so how about it? It's been a while. Won't you come dance with me just a little bit? Sumire hung her head and shook with rage, but she didn't say anything back. The dancing Higanbana, a yokai known for her fickle temperament, simply found her prey and ran off with it at the tastiest moment. Nothing more, nothing less. If the plan for your hunt gets too big, it makes it easy for other yokai to catch a glimpse of it. Her prey simply didn't match her rank. Next chance I get, I'll be the one stealing your prey. I'll remember this. See you later. Let's meet in the moonlight of the school sometime. Sumire stamped her feet in frustration and disappeared. Down below, the bus driver crawled out from under the wreckage. If someone were just checking the state of things, it would have looked like there were no survivors. Higanbana ate an entire class. The souls of those pitiful students that drowned in the pleasure of bullying and sunk into its dark depths were consumed once and for all. When the driver crept up to the roadway, there was nobody around. But in the distance, he could hear the cruel laughter of the school yokai fading into the wind. I heard about the accident through a phone call from school. My fever went down and I'd be able to go to school. At school, everyone was waiting to pick on me, and then the phone rang. Even the teacher was there. All my classmates, excluding myself, were dead. Okay, well, we solved bullying, everyone. Just kill everyone who's a bully. Interesting choice. The only solution to bullying is murder. I don't know if that's... Oh, man. I don't know if that's a good or bad solution. I'll leave that up to everyone else to decide, but... Yukishi's got some interesting perspectives on good and evil here. Okay. And appropriate solutions to bullying, too, I suppose. Well, he had an interesting philosophy in Higurashi, and I guess this is one of his unique takes. The solution to bullying. Gratuitous violence. Of course I was shocked, but the fact that I was relieved that I wouldn't be bullied anymore was undeniable. Wasn't I fighting against that? I didn't fight, I just continued letting myself be bullied as I was told. I was unexpectedly saved by an exchange student, harassed by yokai, saved again by this accident. I didn't fight at all, I've just been led around by chance and the whims of others. Fight? Bullying? What a ridiculous thing to say. But I'm not wrong. Hi, I'm Yukari Sakaki. Nice to meet you. That was a disaster, wasn't it? Let's pull through together as a new class. Everyone treat her well, okay? I'd been transferred to another class, a new class. I didn't know a single face, and for some reason, now that thought was comforting to me. As I sat in my new seat, I was surrounded by girls welcoming me, and because of the shocking incident resulting in the deaths of all my classmates, thinking I surely must have been mentally scarred, they kindly comforted me. Wasn't that convenient? No one said I stank, rather they warmly greeted me as new friends, and in this class, I can start over. Mixed in with those girls was that yokai, Marie. Think you get along well in your new class? Yes. This time we'll work hard to make a lot of friends, starting with 0. Sorry, I was useless, really. No, it was you. The day I thought about killing myself, it was you who told me not to do it. Thank you. And thank you for fighting to protect me. Marie hadn't expected being thanked at all and shyly looked away. A lot has happened, but I feel I learned a lot of important things. Oh? You have to fight bullying? What was that? That you have to fight bullying? If you don't fight it, it's the same as allowing it to happen? People who torment others and people who pretend not to see it happening are equally bullies. I'll never be a bully. That's going to be really hard to do, though. You're right. If the whole class becomes bullies, I don't think I'll be able to stand up to them myself. But if it's against the seed that starts it, even against someone as powerless as myself, I can fight against it. Yukari, you're strong. Bullying is a sad thing, and why it can't be allowed to continue. That's something only someone who has been bullied can understand. So I have to be the one to fight it. Yeah, I'll be rooting for you, Yukari-chan. Marie thought. If only she had the kind of strength when she was alive. With the gentle flowing of the curtains, a cool breeze enters the classroom. That breeze, little by little, caused Marie's body to fade. Marie? Seems it's time for us to say farewell. I don't have any yokai power left. I have to take it easy and rest for a while. For Marie, who had absolutely no yokai strength, it was difficult to remain in the bright, shadowless classroom. Goodbye, Yukari-chan. Glad I met you. Because it's you who gave me an answer to the regrets I had in life. Oh, it's nothing. Besides, if I didn't learn from you, I would have wasted my one precious life. Live well. There are no flowers that bloom in death. If there are, they are the ones that bloom to laugh at the pitiful dead. The unforgiving flowers that blossom in the dead of night. I don't think we'll meet again, but I won't forget you. I won't either. I won't forget you. And I won't forget everything we've done in this short time. I won't forget what I've learned from it. Humans are truly wonderful, aren't they? As long as they live, they can learn anything. Even if they fall to their knees, they certainly have the strength and will to stand up again. Goodbye, Yukari-chan, and take care. With a warm smile, Marie's figure disappears. Yukari's expression was also a warm one. Blowing the curtains, a pleasant breeze enters the classroom, and the air was fresh. The stagnant air of the old classroom was no more. In this new classroom, I'll give it my all. Shut up, you freaky stink. Suddenly she could hear someone's insults. They weren't directed at Yukari. Taking a look, there was a group of boys crowding around and mocking a weak-looking boy. He was being bullied and asking for them to stop with his forced smile, but they weren't about to listen to him. They're doing it again. I don't like this. The girls scowled and whispered to one another. Yukari stands up from her seat. She knew what she had to do. And without hesitation, she acted without fear. Hey, you boys over there. I don't actually know if we needed the exact last line there. But for someone who's verbose as this guy, you know what? That's a win. All right. Interesting ending. I thought we were doing okay, like an act earlier, but they had to do the tie-in because this is the end of Higanbana. That makes sense. Like the end of the first night of Higanbana, because I think there's 2 nights, right? As far as the end of the first night, since they needed a longer act and to tie it in with the supernatural stuff, doing a normal human ending would have been weird. So I think this is an acceptable compromise to do like a double-length one. It was pretty good too. I think my favorite part of this arc was still her debating whether or not she should kill herself. That was an interesting argument. That was probably the best scene possibly in this entire novel. Definitely in that arc. As the bullying rhetoric, while partially true, was overshadowed by the fact that it was literal magic and that his solution was kill everyone who is a bully, the end. And maybe if you stand up to one bully by themselves, you might manage something, maybe, if you're lucky. Like, the solution to lots of bullies is just to kill them all, and you're just like, I don't know about that yet. I feel like that was a strange solution. I know it was like a bit of a weird solution to that problem, but other than that, we were okay. Like I said, we had a couple good scenes in this arc, and the tie-in seems to have ended with, like, Marie and Higanbana seems to have ended well enough. We met Sumire. Addition of new elements. Check the title screen for newly added content. Will do. Is there an 8th chapter? Library and music room. If I click attend, I assume there's nothing new. Only scenario 7. Yep. We have a library. A list of characters, it looks like. Ah, it was Yoko. Yoko Numata. Note, Yoko Numata. I was right earlier. Yoko Numata, the chick from this kid's photography arc, is the same as this chick. Hikaru Sakaki, Miri as the villain. And yeah, someone got fucking wrecked there, man. That was awesome. We got the music room too, so if I want to, I can play all the tunes. Handy. Well, I appreciate that they translated them all to Romanji, but I don't know what any of these tracks are. There are a couple good tracks in this. Let's see. There were a couple decent tracks in this. I'm just listening to see if this is one of them. The tense version of this, maybe it's the middle, was pretty good. This is 50 seconds. Seeing if it's the right mix. Maybe there's another mix. Huh, okay. Okay. Mzaki. You like Mzaki, right? Glad to see he's back for this. Hey, I'm pretty good with that. It's a good ending to the first night. I had fun. I hope you guys did too. Before we start up the second night soonish. Since I think there's only 2 nights. I have to go get that set up. But if I can find a translation for the second night, we might do that too.